Fortunately enough, we'll be joined by David Seluka, who's the ECN Manager of Communications and Marketing, to come shed some more light on yesterday's developments, and of course also just to come help us understand, in the public's reaction. We know that the public, members of the public were not really impressed with the way ECN had carried out the elections, but it will be good to hear from David Seluka as to what is now going to happen, including from today until tomorrow, and also just to get an analyst point of view. We'll also be joined by Dr. Marius Kudumo.
That's right. Those are some of the interviews and conversations you can look forward to in this hour. We'll equally be joined by the Police Regional Commissioner from the Erongo region, who will basically be elaborating on some of their observation in that region during the election period, and we'll also bring you the weather and the traffic update. Welcome back. Now, leading the news this morning, in line with the ECN's obligation to provide every registered voter with a full opportunity, that is to exercise their right to vote, and after having taken into consideration the complaints lodged by the Commission, they decided to recommend to President Angolo Mbumba to take the required steps to enable the continuation of the election in certain polling stations. Today and Saturday, the fixed polling stations will be open from 7, that is of course until 9, while mobile polling stations will open at certain times. Some of the polling stations are in Epupa, Opuo, Sesfontein, Okachali, Ondangwa Urban and Oshakati East constituencies, and some polling stations in Oshakati and the Commerce region.
Yesterday, political parties were calling on the ECN to halt voting as well as the counting process. The ECN called a meeting earlier yesterday with political parties, but it did not show up, prompting them to have a meeting amongst themselves. The parties held a media briefing afterwards.
Well, let's take a look at the weather. We saw that it was quite very windy this morning. Well, I'm not sure if it was windy your side, Jonas?
Yeah, it was quite cool.
Okay, quite cool.
It was quite cool, yeah. It reminded me a bit of the coastal weather.
Okay.
Not a big fan of the coast, but it was well welcomed after this whole heat that we've been battered with, over the past few days.
Definitely. Yeah. A few showers would actually do us some good. But taking a look but taking a look at some prospects of the weather, the warm to hot temperatures are expected over the coastal area this weekend, so please take the necessary precautions. The temperature in the interior will be partly cloudy and hot to very hot, that is in the north, with a few thunder showers in the central northern regions and the Kunene East and the Zambezi region in places. Elsewhere, sunny and hot to very hot, and windy weather is expected to persist in the interior. The coast will be partly cloudy and mild to warm, and we expect the wind to be moderate to fresh southeasterly at first, becoming southwesterly later. Now for the tides at Walvis Bay, a low tide will be expected, that is 2 minutes to the hour of 8 this morning. We can look forward to a high tide in the afternoon, 9 minutes past the hour of 2, and a low tide later on in the evening, 24 minutes past the hour of 8. The sunrise in the capital city, the sun rose 1 minute to the hour of 6, and we can look forward to it setting at 22 minutes past the hour of 7.
A traffic update will be coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're still watching the special broadcast of Namibia Votes 2024. Joining us this morning to give us the traffic update is Sergeant Nkobizwe Shipanga from the Public Relations and Community Policing section of City Police. Sergeant, good morning.
Good morning, Dapawa. Good morning to the viewers. And once again, thank you for having us.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Please go ahead.
All right. In our traffic report this morning, starting with the western suburbs, the intersection of Reverend PG Karwarea and Nyaspita Nanyemba is still off. As such, we call on motorists to use this intersection as a four-way. Practice the golden rule, first come, first go. Road closures, we still have Abraham Mashego Street, and as well as Winima Tigizala Mandela Road. Both are closed. The portions between Nyaspita Nanyemba and Claudius Gangovaldo Street. So to look out for that. We also have Nyaspita Nanyemba Street and Omulunga Street. That intersection is also closed. So to look out for that if you are in that part of the city. And yeah, let's be cautious as we move and navigate throughout the city, and ensure that if you know you are not patient enough, look for alternative routes. Moving on to the eastern side of the city, intersection of Ombika Street and Frankie Frederick Street is flashing on red. We also have Independence Avenue and Hosea Kutako Drive also flashing on red. Very, very busy intersection. As such, we call on motorists to use this intersection as a four-way, and let's practice the golden rule there as well. First come, first go. Road closures in the CBD, we have Casino Street still closed due to construction happening there. So do look out for that in the CBD, and yeah, let's move cautiously and avoid any headaches. Right. No accidents and no obstructions reported at this hour. However, as we always say, if you do come across any, do alert us so we can be able to arrest the situation on the ground as soon as possible. Moving on, it's weekend again. It's month end as well. You know,
it's elections too.
It's elections too. You know, people have extra coins in their accounts. So we call for extra vigilance, especially if you are going to be withdrawing large sums of money from the bank. Just watch out for those elements, you know, going around the queues and are always giving you right of way, you know, to go in front of them, and ask yourself, why are they doing that? We believe that they are doing that because they are observing how much you are withdrawing, and later on they will ambush you and try to rob you of that money. So yeah, let's just be tuned in to what is happening in and around us, and ensure that we alert law enforcement, because we do have undercover teams that can be able to you know, come and observe what is happening there and deal with those elements. So let's try that, and also let's try to explore the electronic way of transacting. I mean, it's much safer. So try explore that, and if you absolutely have to withdraw that large sum of money, just take the necessary precautions, and yeah, alert law enforcement if there's anything sinister that you are noticing. Moving on to the road safety front, we still are preaching the same, you know, gospel regarding the issue of drinking and driving. Even yesterday during the day, we had a couple of accidents whereby people were found to be under the influence. So it's election fever, it's December festive fever, so people have lots of time on their hands, and they are consuming alcohol and driving, and we are really advising against that. Of course, we will do the necessary in that regard. We'll remove any element that is drunk, hopefully before accidents happen. So that's why we will be doing our random alcohol testing, and yeah, ensuring that other road users are safe. So find yourself on the right side of things. Do not drink and drive, and yeah, get someone to chauffeur you around, or take public transport that will get you to your destination without any headache from law enforcement, or without any headache from things like accidents. And lastly, we do have extra boots on the ground. We are keeping the pulse on what is happening in and around us. So we need assistance from you, the public. If you do have any information, do share with us, so we can be able to deal with elements that we do not need in society. We call on that assistance from you, the public, and also that extra vigilance from you. And just trust in us and share that information. We are still reachable on 061 302 302 if you need assistance, or you can text us on 4444. That is all from us this morning.
Sergeant, perhaps before we let you go, seeing that we had the 27th of November as a public holiday, where we saw thousands of Namibians heading to the polls, did we see perhaps a trend of criminal activities that picked up during that time? And also today, the 29th of November, is Black Friday. What is your message to the public this morning, and perhaps something that they can look out for, or activities, criminal activities that take place during these times?
When we gather at places where we are in big numbers, we need to watch out for things like pickpocketing, because that's what people target. We also need to watch out for theft out of motor vehicle. That's what people target as well. But what I was impressed with during this time of election, it's like there was togetherness insofar as Namibians are concerned. So we didn't have much incidents of criminality. People just went out to vote. So we need that spirit. Of course, we do have here and there these elements that we do not need, but with your assistance, we will get to the bottom of it.
All right. Well, Sergeant, thank you so much for talking to us. We wish you all the best this weekend, and we'll definitely see the boots on the streets.
Thank you so much, and all the best, you and the team, as you cover the elections and everything thereafter.
Thank you so much. Sergeant Ngobiswe Shipanga from the Public Relations and Community Policing section of City Police, giving us the traffic update this morning, and also just sharing a few tips. The weekend is upon us, so let's stay safe. Welcome back as we continue to engage the members of the force with logistics challenges at polling stations, as well as heightened political tensions with the role of the Namibian police has been more critical than ever. We now speak to Police Regional Commissioner of the Erongo region just to elaborate more on the observations during the elections, and also perhaps just to talk to us about how, just to perhaps give us the traffic update in the Erongo region. Commissioner Kupembona, good morning, and thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
All right. Commissioner, kindly just give us an update on the Erongo region in terms of, criminal activities. Anything that has perhaps picked up, perhaps new trends?
Well, thank you very much for the question. And Generally, the region is relatively quiet in terms of serious crime. We haven't recorded any serious crime so far. The only incident which we recorded was for the vehicle accident in the area of Karadab, where a pedestrian was run over. But apart from that, we haven't recorded any kind of serious incident or serious crime, so to say.
All right. Are there perhaps any incidents of unrest or violence that the police are addressing, perhaps during this time of elections?
The region, we haven't recorded any violence which is election-related, but we only experienced the long queues, whereby this has only happened at the mobile points, whereby the voters, some of them did not want to stand in the queue and to adhere to the procedures. But fortunately enough, that we dealt with that matter, and we swiftly reacted to it, and everything was normalized.
All right. Commissioner, election day comes with heightened, political tension. Talk to us about some of the measures put in place by the police just to implement and ensure the safety of voters to prevent potential outbreak of violence.
As a police officer, we are mandated to maintain law and order. We prepared for this for the election day. And members of the force were deployed at every polling station across the region. And we also had some special team to deal with if there's any unrest comes up, and that's how best we can deal it. But fortunately enough, we did not have such unrest in the region, apart from those minor issues, and we addressed them. And I can say that even the voters really did cooperate in terms of adhering to the law.
All right. Commissioner, the weekend is definitely upon us, a month-end weekend for that matter. What is your message to the public in the Erongo region and perhaps those that will be traveling to the coastal towns?
Especially, I want first to urge to the travelers that the road is a shared responsibility. You need to be sober when you are behind the steering wheel, and respect other road users, and be vigilant as you are driving. And to the general public is that as we are approaching the weekend, I know that maybe as a coastal town we may expect an influx of the visitors, these are international as well as those from across the country. We expect them to be law-abiding citizens, because we are on the ground to ensure that law enforcement is really been maintained in the entire region.
All right. Commissioner Kupembona, thank you so much for talking to us this morning, and all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right. Commissioner Nicolaus Kupembona, who is Police Regional Commissioner in the Erongo region, talking to us this morning. Don't go anywhere.
I came at around 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Now it's moving very fast.
Okay.
But we stayed in a line for quite a long time.
Slow.
Yeah, quite slow. I think they have improved now a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you are determined.
But this is a struggle we have to conclude. We have to fight. We have to elect our own leaders. Just to keep peace, to keep stability, and to make sure that those that are leading us are performing.
You are determined to make sure you cast your vote.
I feel like it's important to have your voice heard, especially as you become an adult and you become informed within society. You must know that when you vote, you are going to be having your voice heard. Your choice is going to be immediately determining what's going to be happening within the country. So you have to take care and know that, okay, if I don't vote, then someone's making my decision for me. So that's why I feel like it's important to be here, to be in the queue, and to do your part.
I had a conversation with somebody today, and they said, look, it's not fair that people are registered for 2 or even more days, but they are only given 1 day to vote. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I agree very much with the sentiment. If you could maybe give us 2 days, understand, it will be very good. But we can change the rules and the regulations of the country. If anything stipulates that's how it must be done, then we just have to follow suit.
Welcome back. As the nation went to the polls to cast their votes on Wednesday, the process faced some unexpected challenges. Reports are emerging of logistical issues, including a shortage of ballot papers and malfunctioning equipment. Voting has been extended to today and Saturday due to these challenges. This morning, we are joined by political analyst Dr. Marius Kudumo, who will help us unpack the implications of these issues on the credibility and smooth conduct of the elections. Dr. Marius Kudumo, very warm welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Context is very important. Let's start with history. This is the first time it has happened. What are your impressions?
Yeah, generally, the impressions are both positive and negative. Positive in terms of how the citizens behave at the polling stations. And everyone is having their own story and their own experiences. My own experience is that I went to a voting station in Ares after trying to find a voting station in Windhoek. I did not take my chair because I assumed it will be empty there. And someone whom I don't know offered me and my wife a chair to sit there. And there was a young lady at that school, Ares, and she had baked bread, and she was walking around with bread, and everyone was assuming she's selling. Then she said, no, my mother told me to give this bread to the people who are here, who have been standing for a long time, meaning humanness was part of this election. The negative aspects are the processes themselves that people have experienced, including myself. So there are both positive stories about the humanness of the Namibian people, but negative stories about how the process was managed and handled.
The ECN yesterday, led by the ECN chairperson, Dr. Ngikembwa, put out a press statement, and many Namibians thought at least they would apologize for some of the mishaps that happened during the elections, where people, didn't have the opportunity to vote. I mean, people turned up, ballot papers ran out. We're talking about machinery that was heating up, batteries running out, but at no point did they admit that, look, we messed up, we are sorry. What was your impression of the press statement?
I think they are overwhelmed with many issues. And when you are overwhelmed with so many issues, you don't think about the smaller details and issues that matters. Obviously, that should have been the right thing to do. And they appear to come out to justify and to explain, but some of the explanations are not good enough, because you should have anticipated in your planning what could be the risks and what would be the mitigating factors. And many of the issues that have been explained thus far are issues that you could mitigate against. So they are overwhelmed, we understand, but we are hoping that they will find time to do so, because it is the right thing to do.
Now, prior even to the elections, there were some members of the public who felt that 1 day might not be sufficient, and parties and political parties also joined in the song of saying, look, let's perhaps think of extending this 1 day of elections to at least 2, so we can allow each and every eligible voter to register their vote. And as if it was by script, it played out in a way that we're now having 2 more days of voting since the president has now granted the permission for that to go ahead. What are your thoughts around this? And should we perhaps going into the future improve our systems or have more than one voting day?
I think we must just improve our systems. There is a reason why you have one day, so that you don't allow any other matters to come into the election. There are nations that are having over 100 million people, and they are voting in a day. My view is strongly, we must just improve our systems. For example, evidence-based planning and policy making is always critical. One of the factors from an outsider perspective that was not considered is the population growth. When you look at a town or a city like Windhoek and Rundu, where you are having the evidence that the population have grown significantly in these regions, the polling station generally remained the same, like when you did not have many people. So the urban-rural factors were not considered. Also, the rural areas in terms of accessibility and even counting, assisting the ballot papers, assigning the ballot papers were not proper. I think it's a matter of planning, evidence-based planning. That's where the major problem is. For example, I made a presentation at the SADC Electoral Observer Mission that was here. And before my presentation was the Electoral Commission of Namibia. One of the questions that was asked there is the preparedness. And I think the ECN was too confident that they are prepared. And obviously, a follow-up question was, what are the mitigating factors against risks that might come up during the election? That same question was asked to me, and I said we should have learned from the special voting day because we ran out of ballot papers. Basically, if there was evidence-based planning and looking forward, the time that it takes to bring the ballot papers where they have run out should have been a major factor in this consideration. Like I said, I tried to vote at Ares. I could not. I stayed there for 2 hours, 15 minutes. The ballot papers, the team has not arrived, so I have to abandon that. Just imagine if it takes you more than 2 hours to get ballot boxes or ballot papers to a 20-kilometer distance. What happens in the rural areas, in the inland with bad roads? How long will it take you to get there? So I think it's just preparedness, anticipating, and managing the risks that come up.
Absolutely. Now, elections are designed to be free, fair, and transparent. And it has to have the trust of the members who are participating in this as the electorate. How has this latest developments impacted the trust of the public in the institution?
My view is negatively, irrespective of what the reasons are. Like you are saying, there is an outcome, there is an expected outcome from an election, both in terms of the Electoral Act as well as other instruments like the SADC guidelines and principles guiding democratic elections. An election must be democratic, free, fair, transparent, and credible. So if there are many mishaps in an election, then you erode that trust. And if the trust is eroded, then you have a problem in proclaiming it to be credible. And that proclamation of an election being democratic, free, fair, transparent, and credible should be expressed by the citizens, by the participants, not the observers. The observers come and observe. The citizens, the participating political parties must say this election was democratic, free, fair, transparent, and credible. And it's on the basis of their experiences, it's on the basis of what they have seen, how it happened. And remember, if you erode trust, it's very difficult to bring it back.
Absolutely.
I was arguing with people to say there were many young people who turned up, young voters who are voting for the first time. You must ensure that they have a positive voting experience. If it is negative, don't complain next time when they don't vote.
For the longest time, since 1989 and throughout the elections that we have had, Namibia has been, applauded for its democratic and electoral processes. This recent event, how does it, reflect on the international community and those who have looked up to Namibia as, a beacon of democracy, and as far as elections are concerned, on a continent that is marred by so much negativity?
Yeah, I think it might have negative impressions, both nationally as well as internationally, because of the way how we are handling matters and the way how we handled matters. For example, these observer missions that are here, they came here for 1 day. You are putting additional cost to them to stay 2 additional days, and there's no clarity by when the election will be declared. So, and a small population, and we have been doing reasonable well in the past, this is really not, it doesn't create a good image. But obviously, out of negative experiences, we must learn lessons. We must improve in the future, both in terms of the Electoral Act, the planning and conducting of the elections, as well as the recruitment of staff who are responsible for this function. Because one of the basic issues that was missing was communication. Adequate, timely communication, just to inform people what is happening. So what I'm saying is, although we are critical, if we want to improve, we must be learning organizations. We must learn lessons out of this and do better in the past. For now, it is a negative outlook.
Yeah. Last but not least, the polls open today at 7 o'clock up until 9 p.m. as well as tomorrow. Do you think the Namibians who didn't have the opportunity to go out and cast their vote will still, still be forgiving, so to say, and say, well, let me just go out there and register my vote as well, or we will see perhaps maybe a little bit of a drawback because of what they have experienced? Is there really, really a hunger for people to really go out? I mean, you spoke about the numbers. The numbers have vastly increased over the years. The population has grown. And when you look at the registered voters, we're talking about over 1.4 million people, which is only second to the 1989 voters turnout, which was at over 90%. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, it is difficult to predict with certainty, but I don't think that the turnout would have been the same like the first day because of various factors. You see, there was a public holiday that was declared to enable people to go out there and vote. Now, some of those people who are voting today are actually working, whether it is in the informal or formal sectors. The living condition of people is difficult. If they have to make a choice whether to go back, and with the experience that I'm going to stay there for 8 to 10 hours, they are likely to say, no, let me just stay at home. So there will be some who are determined who will go, but there will be others who should have voted who will not go back. But we will see, because I'm interested already to know, even with these difficulties, what was the estimated voter turnout.
Absolutely.
Because in your communication, that will encourage people also to go out and vote and so on. So I don't think that they will be enthusiastic as they have been during their time. Firstly, because there are other factors and considerations that they have to take into account. And secondly, their experience have been negative. Therefore, they need some encouragement and motivation. And that motivation have not been very strong.
Damaris Kuduma, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insight. And like you said, let's wait and see. We can't predict what will happen, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on all the latest developments. But thank you so much once again.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. My concluding word is, this is a right of citizens. You cannot deprive it to them, especially by a body that is mandated to facilitate the process. We must remember it's a right, and you can't deprive a fundamental human right of people because of inadequacy in planning.
Thank you so much. That was public policy analyst Dr. Damaris Kuduma sharing his thoughts around the issues of how the elections played out and how these issues impact credibility on the elections and going forward. And like you said, we can't tell for certain what will happen today, but as NBC, we will keep you updated on all the latest developments. Stay tuned.
Concerns were actually raised where members are concerned that when they enter the voicing booth, they actually take a while. So now here I'm joined by a resident of Okanja who will just take us through what is actually happening here. Thank you so much for joining me, sir.
Yes, good. Okay, we are not happy with what's happening here because we came here around 6 o'clock, but I don't know what's happening in the voting room there. Somebody enter inside, spend like 20 to 30 minutes inside. So if you check, there's a lot of people here. I don't know what time will they be able to vote all of them or not. If the people are spending like 20 to 30 minutes inside the voting room, we are not happy about it.
So what recommendations would you actually like to make to the presiding officers and those officers that are actually running through this election process?
They must improve their system or whatever. They must put a lot of voting machine. I don't know whether they are using voting machine inside. They must put a lot of voting machine inside so people will be fast. Because it can't be somebody standing for 20 minutes inside there. I don't know what they are doing inside. Then after that, how will all the people vote inside here?
Okay, in general, just elaborate how you actually feel in partaking through this electoral process.
Yeah, there's nothing further to say, just to improve their system. They might just improve their system. Yeah.
We still check some of the members here who are actually raising concerns, and now we'll head over at the elderly side where also concerns were raised that they are standing in the sun and no provisions are actually made for them to be in the shade. As you can see, some of them are they actually brought their umbrellas and they are elderly. They're seated in the sun. They also came with their camping chairs. And with me here, I'm also joined by one of the elderly men who was also in the queue. Just to specify, as an elderly citizen, what challenges are you actually facing that you wish to be addressed come 2025?
What I want, a big change in our town, actually, because as elders, we don't have, we don't have opportunities, but all I want to ask is, will this election change something? Because especially in Okanja, we the elders, we are suffering with the rate of what do you call the houses and etc.
Okay. Do you have any final remarks?
Not yet.
Thank you so much, sir. So we move on to this side where the elderly are actually seated and waiting to get in the voting booth, and also just to get an overview of how they're actually feeling about the election process. But right now, I'll just speak to one of the ladies who's wearing an orthopedic shoe and also walking on crutches. So yes, thank you, ma'am. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing good. How do you actually feel in partaking these elections of 2024?
I feel privileged to be a citizen of Namibia, to cast my vote because my vote is my voice, and I would like to contribute towards the economy of this country, and that's why I want to vote, to have a say. Whenever you vote, you have a say in this country.
Okay.
Privileged to vote.
Okay, so now that you are also using an orthopedic shoe and a crutch, what recommendations would you actually like, or what were you actually hoping to see that you are actually treated a special way from those that are standing on the other side, saying that now that you're also in the sun and you are using these equipments just for support?
It would be much easier if they would be shadow for us and more comfortable environment for us with this disability of us. But I don't think I should be treated special. I'm also just a human being with an injury, but I think at the end of the day you will sit for a long time and you get tired. So I think they should have at least have a shadow or assist people more quicker, because we've been sitting here for such a long time, and yeah.
Okay, since your arrival, according to your observations, what actually do you think that the election process is going smoothly, or there are sort of disruptions?
According to me, I won't say there's any distractions. It's just a bit slow. I don't know what is the hook up inside, but there are people that has been sitting here for a very long time, hours, and I think the process is just a bit smoother, faster, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sit here the whole day. We came early to cast and go home.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, you have heard it right there from the Namibian citizens who actually came in a number were just to cast their ballots for the presidential and National Assembly elections. So right now we got hold of the presiding officer who will just run us through about the preparations of the election process, and now that also these residents also raised concerns about the process, the slow process that is taking place here. So how are you doing?
I'm doing well, ma'am.
So just elaborate or emphasize on the process that is here at Eden Primary School, now that also we see that a lot of people are complaining that they came here 4 o'clock early in the morning, but until now, not even more than 50 people have casted their votes. What is your take on that?
I don't know about 4 o'clock. We opened our polling stations at 7 a.m. as it was agreed.
Yes, but they say that some of them came to camp here. They slept here throughout. From 4 o'clock, they came to camp here just to ensure that they don't have to wait for so long.
Well, unfortunately, people came here earlier before the agreed time. We couldn't, just because they are camping outside, we need to open our gates, because we were instructed to open our gates at 7 a.m. So the process for us is going well. Difficulties with the old people, maybe that's why they are complaining about the slow process. But so far, so good.
Okay, how are the procedures in the voting booth now that people are also complaining that you guys take so long, probably even 10 to 15 minutes just to attend to one person to cast their ballot?
We are not attending people that are casting their ballots. When you go into the ballot booth, you go alone. So the people that are taking long are the one casting the votes. For us, we finish very fast. When they enter, we verify, we ink them, we give them ballot papers. They are the ones that take long in the ballot booth.
So when they come to your desk, you guys actually finish up the process faster, but then when they get into the voting booth, then that's where the process is delayed?
Exactly. So because some people can spend 15 minutes, and then when we see that they are taking longer than expected, that's when we go ahead and assist them. But otherwise on that, it's not on our control. It's not under our control.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, you have heard it right there from the presiding officer, who actually explained to us that it is members of the public that are actually taking very long when they go into the voting booth. Now from me, Martha Mwafangeo, it's back to you in studio.
Again, not a small number, and the whole excitement and the run.
election talk with special emphasis on the Omaheke region and that magnifying glass on the Gobabis constituency where we have set up shop. I'm Leslie Shiweda, and right now I'm joined by the first citizen of this region, Honorable Pio Nganate, who is the governor here. Governor, good afternoon and welcome to Election Talk.
Good afternoon, Leslie, and thank you for having me here.
Well, yesterday you set the tone. You were one of the first people to cast your vote yesterday, and in fact, you did set the tone. Let's talk about the post-election reflections from your experiences and what you have seen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I felt it necessary that myself and my wife should set the example by being the first to vote right at the Gobabis municipality, which you have done with so much excitement. It's a historical vote, I call it. Historical in the sense that among all the candidates competing for presidential election, we have a lady amongst them, and also the number of candidates for the election themselves, 15 is not a small number, plus 20 parties themselves are again not a small number. And the whole excitement and the run-up to the election was something to be seen. It was really exciting, very anticipating, created expectations, create much-needed hope, and also the period of registration. Aggressive marketing was done to make sure that 1.3 million people did register as voters, which is basically a record time. I don't think we had one such a turn-up of voters in the last few years.
We understand that as soon as you were done with your democratic duties and your civic duties of doing the election, you then went on a small tour through your vast region. What were the observations that you picked up?
No, I normally do it every time there's an election. I would be traveling through the whole region, through all 7 constituencies, just to observe, to see whether things are going well, so that I have first-hand information in terms of happenings in the region. And I could see a lot of people standing in lines, and some places it wasn't that busy during the midday when the sun was very hot, but in the afternoons people were flocking to the polling stations. But what I have seen is that in 5 constituencies or 5 voting points, ballot papers ran out, and that was very unfortunate. But still, people were very patient to wait until the ballot papers turned up. Of course, I did take it up with the regional coordinator of the election of the ECN, and also with the people responsible for those different constituencies, and I have to thank them for the prompt reaction. Although on Mitara and Witfley, the ballot papers really turned up very late. By the time I left, which was 12 o'clock, Witfley was still waiting for ballot papers. So that's a bit unfortunate, but the determination that the people had, that they did not get tired and decided to sit until those papers arrived, tells me that the commitment was surely there. And also when you go around, you see people having their chairs, having their cool drinks, having their water. People were prepared for a long wait, and it was not surprising that they did sit for so long, because it was worth their waste.
Yeah. For a year when we actually wanted to make sure that the voter turnout was up in the percentages of at least 90% or above, how detrimental would you think, or would you say those the absence of those ballot papers were?
Yeah, no, the absence of ballot papers definitely do have an effect. I don't know to what extent, but I remember that a certain farmer called me and said they are standing there and next to the road, 10 farmers. Of course, they were also under a wrong impression that that was going to become a polling station, which was not the case. But then they drove back and they were told that the polling station would open at 2 o'clock, which was, of course, also a miscommunication. But then they went back, and this morning I tried calling them to tell them that just the neighboring farm, Kehoro, people are still voting, but I could not reach out to him. So there could be that quite a number of people who were not patient enough did go back home and did not vote, which is unfortunate and also impacting on our expected outcome of a 90+% for voting.
With the fourth revolution coming to the fore and the landscape of technology changing, do you think that we should be getting to different innovations to try and make sure that we cast our votes smartly, be it in America, for example, we were talking about it, you post your vote through the post office. Maybe that might not be able to happen here, but could that be a possibility? Should that be a possibility?
I think change is inevitable, and we almost went the right way by the electronic voting machines. Of course, political parties have their own thing and move us backward. Looking like the more we move forward, the more we move backward, and now we are back at the paper trail or the paper voting method that we have been all along been doing it, and which was quite a challenge in the past. But I think it's inevitable that we definitely need to conform. We have a younger population of about 71% who would not be comfortable to do things the way we're doing them. They want to do away with paper, they want to do electronic, and they also want to vote from the comfort of their homes. And I think that should be the thing. It will cut a lot of cost, unnecessary cost that could be used for other purposes as opposed to running elections. So I believe with time we should become used to the new way of doing things. We cannot keep sticking to the old way and year in, year after, and yet we are talking of an industrialized country by 2030.
On a year of election, every time even the underdogs, they stand there and they feel like they are going to produce a miracle here. Do you think that our political landscape is mature enough and our leaders for a smooth transition? Should there be a change in power?
Yeah. No, I think it's very interesting when you look at the results that at some polling stations, some political parties got 0 votes. And that tells me that the people know what they are voting for. And also when you look to the arrangement on the ballot paper, some parties are way there at the back, but still people are finding it necessary to go there. In the past, they would maybe start from 1, 2, and 3 and say, this is how I vote. I'm not going to read through the ballot paper. But people know where to vote now. And I mean, selling dreams, it's nothing. It does cost nothing. And especially when you know that the likelihood for you to become the person to realize those dreams, it's 0. You can make dreams. You can make all type of wild dreams. I'll create employment. I'll give pension money so much to people. But our people have passed that age of believing in everything. They believe in things that are really tangible, and they know what is impossible and what is possible. And they also have a track record of former governance systems that have been in place now for the last 34 years. And they know to what extent the party can produce or government can produce and to what extent not. Of course, there are a lot of work still to be done for us to become as some of the vice presidents of the country was saying, that we are too a small country to really have poor people and abject poverty, and even to talk of things like malnutrition. And those are the new things that I believe whoever comes into power should start addressing. The issue of unemployment, young people will not be forever patient. A hungry person can never be patient forever. He will become angry. And we really need to hands-on. And I believe there are really, really practical ways how we can fight poverty, how we can fight homelessness. But innovation is not forthcoming, and the political will from some of the people that we are also putting in power. Government may have good ideas, like when the late president said, do away with corrugated iron checks in towns. Immediately, the whole country was supposed to have come together and say, how do we go about this? And deliberately have all the young people, they can dig trenches and they can do the piping, the plumbing work, and they can build the manholes, and all of a sudden everyone can have a house and running water, access to running water, and issues like subsidizing water, a certain cubic meter per liter, cubic meter per month to a particular household. It can promote backyard gardens, and it can feed people, and it can also promote hygiene. So there are things that we should be doing. And of course, on your question of transition, I believe Namibia have been known for smooth transition. Of course, now it happened from one party to the same party. But should the need come that it should go to any other party, I believe Namibians are ready for that too.
Okay. To those of you that are watching, you're watching Election Talk, obviously any government of the day as far as Namibia is concerned will always have this issue at the top of the priority list. I'm talking about unemployment, housing, hunger, a good education system, a good healthcare system. And this is where I want to come back to you, Governor, for some of the pressing challenges. I know that you've got a project under your office where you want to make sure that at least a child in Omaheke region at least have a glass of milk per day. But what are some of the other pressing challenges from your office of the governor?
Yeah, no, I believe until the day comes that we have industrial or production hubs in every region, we're not going to fight unemployment. We need to have production areas, production activities, value-added activities. We need to stop exporting our cattle on hoof to South Africa. We need to open abattoirs, even more than 2 abattoirs in Omaheke, where meat can be processed, can be tinned, and can be exported to other countries, and also to be for consumption within SADC and within our own country. That is the strength of Omaheke is within our beef. We have one of the most delicious and most looked after, sought after beef, and we can definitely do much better as of now. And the other thing is that we have diverse as a region in terms of our economy. We're not only concentrating on cattle rearing, but also on crop production, and there we're doing good. We have quite a sizable land under production. We are working on food systems, on farm neighborhood, and it's going well. The other thing is the mine that is being anticipated, not only the uranium mine, but also the copper mines that are around Vetvlei and in the ASAP and the Bukiro areas. We need to encourage those people who are doing exploration to keep doing exploration so that we can see what is workable for our region. Our region cannot depend only on, for example, farming. Farming and mining must coexist, that's my opinion. But then for that to happen, we must have an open mind and openness and stop being boxing ourselves with a particular opinion and get stuck to it. We have people who can do research and then can say for us, is it safe to mine, whether copper, whether uranium, and that's how the region can boom.
Good. In about 2 minutes left, our time has almost come to an end. And before we part here, what is the vision for the future for the office of the governor?
Yeah, the office of the governor is having a future. One is food security that we're working at. The other issue that we have already realized is the innovation and incubation hub. And we have also realized the innovation kitchen that is about value addition of our products. And we believe that if we can set up the farm food systems at Farm Nivehoop and can replicate that farming unit in all 7 constituencies, then we are set to go. Whoever the governor is, if she will believe in this dream, this region is actually destined for greatness. And we call it the region of excellence. We are trendsetters, and we do have a vision. We're not shying away from tackling issues that are complex, and we'll keep tackling them, and we'll keep being of service as an office.
Honorable Pio Nganate, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That was the governor of Omaheke region, Pio Nganate, giving us an insight. I think at the end there, he's saying the vision for this region is that Omaheke region are trendsetters, they're innovative, and they're trying to make sure that there's food security so that no child can go hungry in this region. From me, Leslie, in our election talk, I'll see you again when we dissect some more of the results as they are coming in. Well, thank you so much, and we are here still in Kobabes trying to break down one story at a time and trying to get into the intricacies of every process. We're here at the Collation Center, but now I just wanted to give you a brief background as to the interviews that I've had earlier on this morning with Ms. Hedwig Wanevi, the returning officer of the Kobabes constituency. What she told us was that the polling station, or the presiding officers at the polling station, had to wait for the verification to take place here at the Coalition Center. Hence, this morning we were talking about them not being able to log onto the system and get over through to head office. And I'm now joined by the Media Ombudsman of the Republic of Namibia, and also in his capacity as law lecturer at the University of Namibia, Mr. John Nakuta. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation, Leslie.
Okay. Well, Mr. Nakuta is actually here, and we were going through these, trying to understand the processes very well. And once we started reading the fine print, he said that the process is rather backwards in one way or another, because the presiding officers at the station should have done the pasting of the preliminary results already before they came to the Collation Center, which is not the case here. Could you just elaborate there?
Yeah. Maybe also just for context, as like this morning on the WhatsApp group, I'm part of a journalist media WhatsApp group of which the ECN also belongs to. And there's allegations made that at the various collation centers, like the one that we are now, recounting is taking place. And since I'm out, and I'm here in the Khubaba's vicinity doing observation because I've got accredited, I said, let me come and verify for myself. So I came here. Obviously, there's no counting taking place. Okay. And that is fine. So, but I made the point to speak then to the returning officer to explain to me what is the process. And to my dismay, something that is totally reverse in terms of what the law provides is happening here. And I confirmed this with, because she was like saying, but this is what the training that we got. I confirmed this with the regional electoral officers, officer.
Which is Mr. Joseph Amwandi.
Yes, and he basically really confirmed what is happening here. Basically, in terms of the law is saying the polling station is where everything happens in terms of voting. I mean, after I voted, counting takes place there. At
the polling
station. And announcement is happening there. Okay. And then the process goes further. It said immediately after the announcement and posting of the election results.
Yeah, the preliminary ones.
Yeah, the preliminary ones. Then, of course, the things are now then transferred, I suppose, to
the collation center.
To the collation center. And then here at the collation center, they are now verifying and do the various collations of the various results. That is what the law says. But now what I've found out from these two colleagues, apparently during training, the returning officers at the various polling stations were apparently said, you will post, but only after we have verified
here at the
collation center, and only then will you announce.
Okay.
And that is where the problem is.
Let's get to what the Act says, the Electoral Act of Namibia that we're currently using. You were speaking of Section 105, subsection 8, A to D, the process thereof.
Exactly.
Can you just give our audience some of those steps that should have been taken?
It really says, and I'm going to paraphrase it, obviously, it says that immediately after the closing of the polls, and then, of course, the returning officer takes charge of everything. She must make sure that the agents that are there announce their presence and that they confirm in a way that we are here and whatever. And then counting starts. And then the law says after counting, again in the presence of these people.
The party agents and the
party
observers.
agents, after all these processes have been done for purposes of transparency and accountability, and they make whatever they do in terms of what the law requires them and how they would want to report back to their constituency. And then the law says, you post. And it says immediately after, and that's the key word, immediately after posting, then the returning officer take the matter further to
the presiding
officer. Excuse me. The presiding officer then take the matters further to the returning
to
officer.
the returning officer.
Yes, yeah.
So
now they are reversing it.
They are reversing the role. So basically what Mr. John Nakuta is saying is that the presiding officer at the polling stations has to make sure that the counting has been done, the preliminary results have been posted at the different polling station where they are based, and then once they are done with that, and that each and every party is satisfied, then these ballot boxes can then be sealed and then be transported from the polling station to the collation center, where the returning officer will then come and take it.
Can I just make not a correction, an addition?
Yes.
Because I spoke to the colleagues and they are saying it's in order to make sure the way they are doing it now in terms of the ECN's directive is to make sure that whatever is posted is the correct thing. But even that understanding is wrong, because if you were to go to section 108 as to what happens at the collation center, the law provides for two scenarios. One scenario where what has been reported from the polling stations is correct, then that correct results are directly then announced to the CEO, that is head office. But the law also then provides, if in case there is incorrect returns and whatever, then there's a whole process again. Then you open, then you recount, then you do all this thing, and of course then you correct the results as was posted, and then of course then you relay the correct results
to head office.
Yeah. So this notion of we want to make sure that whatever is announced is the correct results is unnecessary. Okay. It is probably done in good faith, but it is unnecessary. The law provides already for those built-in mechanisms.
Yes, hence it's called the preliminary result, so which means preliminary does not have to be accurate, can always be corrected. The official result is the one that many people will be looking for. And also then the duty at the collation center, that is then been dealt with in section 108.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that then deals with the verification and the auditing process.
Exactly.
Okay.
As has happened here.
As it is happening
here.
Good.
Right.
The next question is that now that this has been done like this, how would you suggest they remedy it?
Actually, it's a very, maybe even before we get there, I know a lot of people are very concerned about the process that was so long. And during our preliminary discussion, I reminded you of what Section 8910 is saying, that the Electoral Act is making provision for voter streaming, so to speak. It says that the presiding officer at a given polling station may arrange voters in alphabetical orders and let them vote in various voting streams.
Various streams. So which means you can have your pregnant or elderly.
Well, the law says alphabetically, but obviously I think the emphasis is on have different streams. And now, as you say, let us have a stream for adults, let us have a stream for pregnant women, and another stream for whatever the case may be. But have different streams, and not what we've seen, especially in the urban area.
Where just one long
stream, and then only in there, inside, we've got two ballot boxes, as I've seen where I've casted my vote at UNAM. Why did the ECN not invoke such provisions? Then we would not have this outcry of people saying we've been in the queues for more than 12, 13, 15 hours. It's unnecessary.
Okay.
It calls for innovative thinking. How can we speed up the process so as to make the voting process attractive for the people? I mean, a lot of people went, and coming to your question, can this process be challenged? I'm not so sure, because it is, for me, it is more an issue of administrative inefficiencies.
Okay.
If of course it can be shown that because of your administrative inefficiencies, a lot of people couldn't cast their vote, that is something different.
Okay.
But if it is just out of frustration, yes, I'm frustrated, I waited for 15 hours, but eventually I casted my vote. Sorry, it's like bad on the ECN's reputation, but you've cast your vote.
Yes, you've cast your vote. I also wanted to come to those administrative inefficiencies that you're talking about, because yesterday, luckily, as far as the Gobabis constituency is concerned, there was no lack of ballot papers. Maybe part of the reason for that is because Omaheke region was one of the lowest registration where voters registered. But the point is that
Well, it's definitely day 3 of Namibia's 8th presidential and National Assembly elections. Jonas?
Actually, day 2 going to day 3 tomorrow. Is it?
No, this is day 3.
It can't be day 3.
It is day 3.
Oh, yes,
we started on Wednesday,
my
the
bad.
27th.
My apologies. My counting is a bit off. My math has always been off, but anyways.
Right.
Yeah, I understand we will be linking up with our colleagues, Erongo and Denver,
That's right.
at ECN, and they'll be engaging, of course, David Siluka, the spokesperson of the ECN, and Professor Piet Krookamp, South African political analyst as well.
That's right. Now, those are some of the conversations you can look forward to. But for now, let's head over to the colleagues. Erongo, Denver, good morning, and it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Ndapewa, and good morning to our viewers. We are still here at the Central Election Results Center at the ECN headquarters. I'm Erongo Shitatala, and it is a pleasure to be in your company this morning. Of course, today is post-election day 2. However, it also then becomes voting day 2, as we have understood that the ECN communicated last night through a directive or a request that they had made to the President of Namibia, which was approved to extend elections for the next 2 days, which is today, Friday the 29th of November, up to tomorrow, Saturday the 30th of November. But I am not alone this morning, as it has been all this week. I'm also joined by my co-host, that is Denver Kisting. Good morning.
Top of the morning to you, Erongo. How are you doing on this gift of a Friday?
I'm doing very well, Denver. Thank you so much for asking. How's the Friday for you?
So far, so good. Ordinarily, I would announce to the Namibian nation on a Friday that the weekend they have landed. But this time around, we are seized as a country with very important democratic processes. You terming today day 2 of the polls, that would make tomorrow day 3.
Yes.
An unprecedented move. It's the first time ever in the history of the Republic that this is happening on account of various challenges encountered on day 1, being Wednesday, the 27th day of November 2024. The chairperson of the ECN, Dr. Elsie Nyikimbwa, did announce that's why the recommendation was made to the head of state, and the green light was given, and it will be published by way of a proclamation. But we have to state categorically, Erongo, the indication is clear that it will only be certain polling stations in certain constituencies.
Yes.
It won't be all the polling stations across 121 constituencies in this country.
That's true, Denver, but also very important to note, counting is continuing. So as from today as well, following yesterday, we are still expecting polling stations to continue counting, collation of the results to be made, and those results to be posted in front of the polling stations. So yes, we are expecting results to start and to continue trickling in. Also, we are expecting the first results from ECN to perhaps be announced as soon as they are ready, hopefully today.
Absolutely, very important point to raise, Erongo, so that you just bear in mind how the process works. Once voting has been completed at a polling station in a constituency, and everyone who indicated that they wanted to vote at the time that voting closed and was given an opportunity to do so, those votes will then be counted by the presiding officer and the team under the supervision and in the presence of the agents of the political parties and organizations. And once counting has been completed, the presiding officer will post those results outside the polling station. Those results will then be sent to the collation center of that constituency, where they will be verified and collated, and then they will be sent to where we are, the Central Elections Results Center, for the national count in terms of the 8th presidential and National Assembly elections. The chairperson, Erongo, did indicate that originally the plan was to make the final results known on Saturday, 13 November 2024. Of course, that will no longer happen.
Yes, so it means that we need to just hold on a little bit more longer before we can receive the final results and find out who our leaders will be for the next 5 years.
Now, I'm sure, Namibia, you have a number of questions. I'm sure you want to know, how does this process work? How did this decision come about? What are the modalities? What are the practical considerations? So we have invited the spokesperson of the Electoral Commission of Namibia, Mr. David Suluka, to help us understand some of those intricacies as colleague Leslie Shweda refers to them.
That's correct, Denver. We will also be engaging an observer. Can you please tell us more about that conversation?
A world-renowned political analyst, Professor Piet Krokamp, is in our midst, and he'll be giving us his take on what transpired over the past week, but certainly also what his stance is on the announcement that was made to the Namibian nation last night and how that impacts democracy, what impact that might have on the region, and we are very excited to bring you that particular engagement.
Well, that is what is on the menu from us here at ECN for this few minutes or so. So please stay tuned as we bring you those engagements shortly.
We have 23 registered political parties. Out of 23 registered political parties, 21 registered political parties have submitted their nominations to participate in these elections. That means the registered political parties have increased with at least 3 more. That's an indication that the number has increased, which is good for democracy in our country. The Electoral Commission of Namibia is the only body with exclusive authority to conduct and run elections. In other words, for participate in election, they must register with the Electoral Commission of Namibia. If they don't, it means they will not participate in the election. The important is that any person aspiring to form a political party must register with the Electoral Commission of Namibia to enable his or her party to participate in elections. Of course, the procedures are long, but they are well outlined in our Electoral Act, of which you need to meet specific requirements. Number one, a party must have a minimum of 3,500 in a minimum of 7 regions. So that is one. The party has to meet that requirement. And then, of course, these are the supporters that support the political party. If you are to form, the party must have a constitution, it must have logos. So all those are part of the requirements that the party is to comply with. The Electoral Commission of Namibia has a legal, not only a legal, constitutional obligation to run elections. Free, transparent, fair and credible. So our electoral processes have been fair and safe all along. To make sure that this is done
Welcome back. You tuned into this special elections broadcast following the announcement last night of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Namibia, Dr. Elsie Nyikembwa. We have invited Mr. David Suluka, the spokesperson of the ECN, to help us understand these latest developments. Good morning, sir, and welcome to this special broadcast.
Good morning, Denver, and good morning to the viewers.
It's been a long week, and there's no indication that it's the end of the week yet for you and the Commission.
Yeah, even forget that it's a Friday today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what has the experience been like for you, David?
The experience has been quite good, but also challenging. As you have observed some developments within these electoral processes. One might attribute it to challenges, but not really as challenges per se. It's an electoral process, and every electoral process has its own dynamics. One critical component in this at this stage is consultations and also continued engagement with the key stakeholders in the process.
Of course, the key stakeholder is the electorate,
yes,
particularly those who have not managed to cast their vote and have indicated that they wish to do so.
Yes.
Help us understand which the key considerations were. What are the factors that led to this recommendation to the head of state against the backdrop of logistical and technical challenges experienced on polling day, Wednesday, 27 November 2024?
Well, Denver, you would recall that there were complaints across the country whereby alarms were raised in terms of polling station running out of ballot papers, some running low, some running out. However, the Commission then employed active measures to ensure that we restock most of these polling stations. I want to reiterate the call that when we are distributing ballot papers and other logistical materials to the polling stations, we distribute them at a constituency level on the basis and the statistics of the registered voter in that constituency. However, you would recall that our laws in Namibia does not limit anyone to vote anyway. So as
during the National Assembly and presidential elections, yes.
So everybody is allowed to vote everywhere. And
let's park there for a moment. We heard Commissioner P.O.C. Kwambi inform the media last night that about 1.6 million ballot papers were printed. So it's 1.4 million for the number of registered voters, plus 10% extra for the law, making it 1.6 million printed in one batch.
Exactly.
So if there's an expectation, because you could have a spoiled ballot, you could have
somebody voting outside their constituency, and this is all catered in that 10% contingency that we print.
So the question that needs to be dealt with is, how is that 10% contingency distributed across the country when the point of departure remains the number of registered voters in the constituency? When we have no idea how many people will rock up because they may vote anywhere. Theoretically, 1.4 million Namibians could have rocked up at one polling station, right?
Yes,
because they were entitled to do so as per the law.
Yes, and that is why we as a commission, we have the electoral standard operation procedures, which allows us to borrow ballot papers from the nearest polling station to allow flexibility. And if you have seen and followed in the media, on the 27th, the commission issued a directive after noticing that some polling stations were running out of ballot papers, and some of them were not as close as the others to one another.
Yes.
In order to allow a smooth transition for transferring of ballot papers, we extended the closing time for polling to allow the polling station that have already closed at 9 o'clock not to continue with the counting, so that they can be able to transfer ballot papers. Remember,
provided they were eligible voters in the queue at the time.
At 9 o'clock.
Because my understanding from last night's engagement was that not for anyone who then rocks up at midnight for the first time. And then indicating, I had forgotten that it was a voting day, I still want to cast my vote, do accommodate me. You must have been in the queue at 9 o'clock in any event.
At 9 o'clock, yes, in order for you to be allowed to be to continue. Now, what happened is that when we identify these challenges, because after you have closed the polling station, you cannot be able to transfer the ballot papers to the next one because they have to be collected to the Central Results Center. That is where you can be able to go and continue with the transferring. Now, to allow a smooth logistical arrangement and administrative protocols that allows for the transfer of ballot papers, we had to issue a directive for the polling stations to remain open.
Yeah, and in the event that a polling station had ballot papers spare, yet there was no one at 9 o'clock in any form of the queue, as far as the eye could see, indicating that they wished to cast their vote. Such polling stations could, as per the directive, also have remained open so that they could lend ballot papers to those who had none.
Yes, exactly.
Is that a correct understanding of those circumstances?
Yes, that is what happened. If you see an example of the Rio Both as well as Katutura Central, at the time of closing, they still had books remaining in their possession. So we had to borrow those books to transfer them to Kunene region and some areas in Commerce region that were still having long queues to ensure that the people who were in the queues are allowed to vote.
We learned last night that there were challenges, of course, with the tablets and overheating. We've been aware of that challenge because the Commission had referred to it and acknowledged that on polling day already. But that from the Commission's perspective, these challenges were specifically experienced where a polling station was a tent. But it appears in other venues it may have been a challenge as well, and the Commission's undertaking was to look into those matters. How is that to be understood? We live in a country that's generally quite hot. It's November 2024, we are in the middle of summer. Would there not have been a reasonable expectation that a device that can't cope with heat would overheat when it needed to be used for long periods on such a day?
I think the understanding, Denver, is that every device, even your phone, if it's constantly in use and it's constantly running, it will overheat.
Which such a device would be on a day such as polling day.
Yes, which such a day could be, exactly like you have mentioned. But this does not attribute to the lack of integrity. That is why we had measures in place to ensure that we let them cool off and then we restart them. And what we have learned is that no data has been lost in the process. No data has been lost in the process. It's just a matter of letting the device to cool off and then the process continues.
I don't think the argument in that instance is necessarily that the integrity of the process would be compromised, unless, of course, reports emerge that data has been lost, in fact. But it would give rise to a delay ordinarily and necessarily, right? And that would render the process even more tedious and have people waiting queues even longer. I think that one has to acknowledge.
Yes, we acknowledge that. We acknowledge that, of course, the delays were there. And we had to make sure that the polling stations remains open from 2100 hours to ensure that we save everybody in the queue. But also, Denver, I want to address there was an issue, especially from our media personnel, who could not vote because they cited that they were in the queues and they were denied access to polling station by our staff members. Well, to cast their vote. I should mention it that the law is very clear that special voting takes place on the 13th of November. And there's a specific cluster and category who are recognized in that cluster. And our advice was that let the media people cast their vote as early as possible, but at least be at the polling station as early as possible. Now, some of the media people were turning up at the polling station late in the evening to be given preference at the advantage of those who were in the queue from 5 o'clock in the morning.
At the disadvantage of them?
Yes, at the disadvantage of them. Logically, and I mean logically, that would not be substantiated to the case or the view that you were covering news from 5 o'clock in the morning and you only managed to turn up to a specific polling station where you want to cast your vote at 8 o'clock in the evening.
But just look, in all fairness, my understanding is that the rationale behind the cluster and categories of those who are allowed to cast their vote on special voting day is because of the essential services that they render.
Yes.
In light of what the media does and the responsibility that the media has, particularly within the context of a constitutional democracy, do you believe it's perhaps a reform that we need to consider to also accommodate media on special voting day based primarily on, very objectively, on the essential services that the media render?
Exactly, that would be some a consideration that one would make, which allows, which would then, allow for thorough consideration. And also to engage with the key stakeholders in the process to ensure that if they are included, they should be included. But attributing it to refusal to access voting at the polling station is absolutely not true.
We understand that the ink ran dry at some polling stations as well, but it's the ultraviolet ink, in other words, the invisible ink.
The ultraviolet light is the light that detects the invisible ink in your fingers.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was a challenge with that as well?
Yes, there were challenges whereby, not really challenges, because these were accessories like batteries that just need to be replaced. But because of the continuous heating, they were also
would be used and heated on such a day.
Yes.
Yeah, because there's a general expectation of that.
Exactly. So we had to come up with proactive measures and ensure that we restock our accessories, and these were mainly batteries, to replace the running out batteries.
Very well. So we learned last night that some polling stations in some constituencies across the country will be open today and tomorrow, and they would have been open since 7 o'clock this morning until 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. Why were these polling stations in these particular constituencies decided on when there were reports all across the country of delays, of equipment that was affected temporarily or otherwise, and that also brought about additional delays? So why were these decided upon?
Well, the Commission has made a decision to continue with the voting process at the selective polling stations across the country, and that is mainly in the 4 regions, that is Khomas, Oshikoto, Oshana, and Kunene. The reasons differ from each other. For example, the Khomas region, Namib Hall. Namib Hall was served by a mobile polling station that started with voting at Windhoek Central Hospital. And then from Windhoek Central Hospital, they moved to Rhino Park Private Hospital. And then they were supposed to move to Namib Hall. However, by the time they reached Namib Hall, there was nobody there. Everybody has left. And then the Commission, within the parameters of the law, saw it fit that those people who were in those queues were disenfranchised and then be given a chance to cast their vote.
2 quick questions. Where exactly is this Namib Hall, number one? Number 2, talk to us about whether it will now be a fixed polling station or still a mobile station.
Namib Hall is situated at Windhoek Central Primary School, just by Namib head office in Windhoek, and it will open from 7 o'clock. It has actually opened at 7 o'clock, running until 2100 hours. Today and tomorrow again, opening from 7 o'clock, running until 2100 hours. But if you are in the queue at 2100 hours today, you still be saved.
And if the queue is so long that the last person only cast their vote at 6:59 tomorrow,
it will still continue.
It will never close until the last person votes in the queue at 9 tomorrow evening.
Exactly.
So ordinarily the understanding is not that stations, fixed stations, will be open from 7 o'clock this morning until 9 o'clock tomorrow evening.
Yes.
Will they close at 9 o'clock this evening?
They'll close at 9 o'clock this evening, but like you said, if there are still people in the queues, it will continue until they are finished. If the queue continues until 7 o'clock the following morning, then it means it remains open for the whole 2 days.
What measures are in place to see to it that what happened on Wednesday does not happen today, it does not happen tomorrow, so that when we get invited on Sunday or on Monday by the good Mr. Saluka, that the Commission has again decided to recommend to the head of state that there must be another extension to make sure that those who again could not be accommodated can get the opportunity to cast their vote.
Well, the measures in place are that we have ensured that we borrow the resources from polling stations that have already, which we're closing, to restock on the ballot papers that we need for the continuous voting process, but also to increase the number of polling streams and polling booths in the polling stations to ensure a smooth election process. I've mentioned that the polling station for Trans-Namib started at Windhoek Central Hospital.
Yes.
It's a rather Windhoek Central Prisons and not hospital. Apologies for that. Some areas that were also affected mainly are in the Kunene region. That's why you see most of the mobile polling stations there.
Are they?
Are they? Yes. That is the constituency of Pupa, Opuo Rural, and Sesfontein.
If I was abroad on Wednesday, and I wasn't abroad on the 13th, and in the meantime, I arrived yesterday afternoon, or I'm arriving today. In fact, I'm arriving tomorrow morning. And I rock up at the Trans-Namib Hall. I may, as a registered voter, cast my vote.
Of course.
Even if I'm ordinarily resident at Ludritz,
yes,
the Kharas region.
Yes, that's correct.
Do we know how the counting is going for those polling stations that have closed and where the presiding officers are ceased with that assignment?
The polling stations that closed on the 27th have already started with the counting of their votes, and some of them have already, as you have followed in the media, they have done or finished counting at the polling stations and are now at their collation centers. But one thing, Denver, that was quite disturbing is that when I was following the media reports, there are still party agents who still demands that the counting should continue at collation centers.
Counting happens at polling stations.
Yes, that's correct. Counting happens at polling stations and not at collation centers. And that is why you saw an incident in Swakopmund where the returning officer of the Swakopmund constituency had to retain the team that was at Mondesa to go and fix their counting because they have mixed both the rejected ballots and the spoiled ballots in the same ballot box, which is not allowed. So these are something that is accounted for. So I want to make it clear that at collation centers, it's only the results that are going to be collected and not the actual counting. And we need to allow the officials to continue with the process smoothly without disruption.
One would imagine that on account of Kunene being greatly affected regarding mobile stations particularly,
yes,
and the extension of the polls being moved there primarily, that that the bulk of the papers borrowed from those polling stations that have done their work would be moved there where the greatest need exists.
Yes.
However, even if a need turns out to be greater, or at least a demand,
yes,
at a polling station where it's least expected, what then happens? Because then the majority of the borrowed ballot papers are in Kunene,
yes,
yet at the Trans-Namib Hall, everyone who has not cast their vote of the 1.4 million rock up here. What is to happen?
You know, like I mentioned earlier on, we allocate resources according to the demand. For example,
it only unfolds
yes,
when it happens.
When it happens.
It can't be predetermined.
Yes. And this is what happened, more especially in the Commerce region during voting on 27. We started realizing that, of course, most of residents, especially from the Katutura Central constituency, as well as some residents in the Windhoek West and Windhoek East, rushed out to areas of Windhoek Rural constituency. So we started borrowing.
Where they thought
the
there might be no
were,
queues.
Yes.
And there may have been no queues, but
yes,
there were no papers.
Exactly.
Papers.
Yes. There were no queues, but not enough papers. So we have to borrow from these constituencies where they came from to deploy those ballot papers in order for them to be saved on the other side. And also the other challenge, Denver, that I want to mention is that we have realized that some of the mobile polling stations would leave the people in the queue and then move to the next point. And what the commission did is that we demanded or instructed this mobile polling station to go back to this polling station where they have left people in the queue in order to save them until they were complete.
It's tricky, Mr. Suluka, when I said from a practical perspective. My understanding was that the Okapuka mobile station also subsequently had to serve Dan for Yoon.
Yes.
So if you have to wrap matters up, particularly dealing with those still in the queue at the time that you're supposed to have wrapped up, and then pack up, dismantle the polling station, travel from Otjozondjupa region essentially to almost to the Erongo region at Dan for Yoon, right? And I know that is a bit of an exaggeration, but I mean just to demonstrate the vast distances that some mobile stations did have to cover, and then you don't know what awaits you at Dan for Yoon because you had not set up there. You are only going there now. You set up because you're a mobile station.
Exactly, and that is why we had an arrangement in place to ensure that returning officers or presiding officers keep into close consultations with their returning officers in terms of communicating delays to their teams where they are and where they are going, to ensure that the people, the next point where they are going to be starting, are also informed about the delays where they are. And we requested that, especially when those who are calling in, we have informed them, please be patient. The team is still delayed at the point A where they started, but they will be at point B where you are now. So just be patient with them. As long as they are there, whatever time they are there, you are going to be saved until all of you have been saved in the queue. And some of them indeed waited to be saved.
Following the announcement of the Commission last night, Mr. Suluka, we have seen intermittent reports of people saying they have been paging vigorously through the Electoral Act of Namibia, number 5 of 2014. Yes. And they are struggling to find the relevant sections and subsections, empowering the Electoral Commission of Namibia to recommend to the head of state to, at this 11th hour advanced stage, extend the polls. What would you have to say to them?
Of course, as the Commission have indicated, there are circumstances in which the Commission considered the extension, not actually the extension, but the continuation of this voting. And these were mainly the areas which were disenfranchised. And as I've mentioned, I'll give an example of Epupa constituency, the mobile stations there. Epupa constituency, just like Windhoek West constituency, the mobile polling station could not reach. By the time they reached these specific mobile polling stations, people had left.
Because they've been waiting there for a very long time.
Because they have been waiting there for a long time. Some of these stations were only reaching there after 9 o'clock, which is the closing off time, and people have left. And this is the practical example of Trans-Namibia and Epupa. Some of them, like the Ondangwa Eben, they have run out of papers, ballot papers. And to allow continuation, we have to transfer papers that were borrowed for them to continue.
Do we perhaps know how many of the 1.4 million Namibians have indeed cast their vote?
At this point in time, we wouldn't know how many people have already casted their vote. We need to check as the system uploads. As of yesterday, the system was still running. So
we just only against the overheating of the system, please, Mr. Luka.
No.
Yeah.
The system does not overheat. It's only the tablets that were overheating.
Yes. Any final thoughts before we let you go this morning, Mr.
Well, we just want to urge those who are affected by the 27th voting to go and cast their vote as the voting continues in the specific areas that have been identified. But we also want to call for calm and cooperation amongst the stakeholders as well as the electorate as we continue to expedite this process. Collation Center, we are expecting the results start coming in today, and we want to extend an invitation to the stakeholders, the political parties, the observers, to start coming through and then start following, but also those who would not be able to make it to the central election result center, they can download our mobile application on either Android or Apple Store, but also follow on the website as the results are coming in.
Lutumezi by David Suluka. Mr. David Suluka, spokesperson of the Electoral Commission of Namibia, speaking to us about the unprecedented 2024 presidential and National Assembly elections.
You are still watching Good Morning Namibia, and we are coming to you live from the Central Elections Results Center here at the ECN headquarters. Now, as the nation eagerly awaits the results of the 2024 presidential and National Assembly elections, we turn our attention to the critical role of election observers in ensuring free and fair and credible elections. Now, joining us this morning is Professor Piet Kroukamp, who is a political expert from Northwest University in South Africa, and is also a regular election observer across Southern Africa. He is here to provide insights into the process, share observations from the polls, and discuss what these elections mean for Namibia's democracy. Professor, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you describe your role and tasks during your observation of elections here in Namibia?
Look, to us in Southern Africa, it's of critical importance that we maintain the momentum of democratic elections and free and fair elections. And Namibia has incredible history in that regard. The Namibians had several elections, all of them free and fair, all of them perhaps not as competitive as one would like them to be, because one makes the assumption that competitive elections lead to good governance. But this election, I think, is more competitive than any of the previous elections, and that's always a good sign. It shows that civil society is organizing itself, political parties is organizing itself in the space, the democratic space, to compete for the popular vote and for the to represent the will of the people. In that regard, Namibians must not be hard on themselves, because if you look at the logistical problems that they experienced in this election, it's typical of most elections. It happens in South Africa, it happens everywhere. But the outcome must be free and fair, and I think we're heading towards that maybe.
All right. Now, talk to us about your observations of what we now term as voting day one, following yesterday's announcement by ECN, specifically leading to the challenges that caused the extension of voting.
Yeah. You remember that I think there was the decision was being made that there must be a paper trail, and that inevitably has delayed the process, the execution of the process. It makes it a little bit more cumbersome, makes it more almost difficult, I think, to execute for the Electoral Institute of Namibia and the Commission of Namibia. So I think we must be patient with it. I think we have to accept that it will be more complicated. I've visited numerous voting stations, and the patience of Namibians with the process was remarkable. It was an incredibly hard day. The queues were very, very long. The process very slow. And as you know, they've opened a few more voting stations today, trying to accommodate as many of the people as possible in the process. I still think the fact that the process has been opened, the fact that there was a consideration to what will we do about the process to allow Namibians who want to vote to actually participate in the election. All those things are commendable things. There are many countries in the world where citizens don't have that freedom, where opposition political parties don't have that freedom to insist on a process being extended. And it happens in Namibia, and I think it's a good and a clear sign that democracy is still in Namibia. It's well established, it's consolidated, civil society is active here, NGOs are very active here, and the media are free and fair here. I think those are all good signs.
Yeah. Do you think that this extension will have any impact on the overall credibility and fairness of the elections?
Well, it could increase the credibility of the election, because that's the question. Did everybody who wanted to vote get the opportunity to vote? And it's not always possible. You remember, when the queues are too long, people have other duties to fulfill. There are mothers who have children to look after, and then they leave the queue. But it happens in all elections. Those are things that people do voluntarily. The question is, did the process allow those who insist on voting, allow them to actually vote? And I think that door is still open, and it's been opened again. I think it's a good sign, yes.
So you are, of course, then saying with your answer that this could affect perhaps a more voter turnout. But what about skepticism?
The skepticism?
Yeah, from the electorate in terms of this extension. Are they confident enough to go and vote?
Yeah, I think that the queues that I've seen at the voting stations open are quite significant. In other words, people use the opportunity to still participate. But I think that's one part of the question. The other part of the question is observers. Do they think that this is an effort to actually make it possible to execute the electoral process in a democratic way? And does it increase the likeliness of it being a free and fair election? Yes, it does. It is a contribution. And in that respect, you have to commend the Commission that they allowed that. You have to commend the President who allowed the process to go on longer. And I think you have to commend Namibians for participating in the process to the final conclusion of it.
What Namibia is going through, based on your expertise as an election observer within the Southern African region, does it compare to any other country that you have observed? We know that Botswana recently took to the polls. Namibia extending its elections, is it something new? Is it something recommended?
The question is, within the law? Yes, it's within the law, and I think that's the important thing. I haven't seen it happen in too many other places that it's been extended. But just remember that even if you are on the first day, you're allowed to vote till 9 o'clock. If you're in a queue, you can vote till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 3 o'clock. In South Africa, some people voted in the next morning, 4 o'clock. So that extension, by definition, has always been a sign of the flexibility of the system to allow the most important thing, and that is to get the voters the opportunity to vote.
Yeah. What recommendation would you give the Electoral Commission of Namibia and the electorate perhaps to ensure that issues of this kind do not occur again in the next 5 years or the next elections, which are the local authority and regional council elections that are expected to happen next year?
I think the first thing they must do is they must change the law, and people must vote where they are registered. Because many of the voting stations that ran out of ballots is because it's almost impossible to plan for a particular voting station, to allocate a certain number of ballots to that voting station, if you simply don't know who will turn up and vote in. Remember, this is a public holiday, so people tend to migrate to various areas. They go on holiday, they use that day for other purposes, they go to family, they go to friends. In other words, they change their location. And that is almost impossible to predict where will people vote, unless you have it in law that people must vote where they are registered.
Yeah. Voting day, as we've indicated, has been extended starting today and will conclude tomorrow. What does your role look like for the next 2 days?
I'll be hanging around, I'll be speaking to Namibians, I'll be visiting the voting stations, I'll be talking to the media and to many other real players as possible. I want to leave Namibia in a day or two and be as informed as possible about the process. And when the announcement is made, the final results is made, I would like to be one of those people who say this has been difficult but free and fair, and the will of Namibians has eventually has come through, and we all agree.
Yeah, this is an unprecedented event, of course, Professor, and this time around, having known that voting has been extended for the next 2 days, it's also happening during a period where preliminary results are being made available. Will these results in any way influence the electorate?
Look, it's possible. In the United States of America, because of the different time zones, you have exactly the same thing, that the results appear here and they could well be still voting in some other areas in America. And it could be that people say, well, it seems like it's going against the political party I support, I should rather get up and vote. Or, well, there's a sense of complacency, we're doing well there, I don't have to go out and vote. It is possible. The question is, will it influence the result materially? I don't think so. Will it influence? It will have some influence, but there's no evidence that it influence the process materially to the extent that one can say it gives an unfairness or a sense of unfairness in terms of those who voted early and those who voted later.
All right. Thank you so much for being here and for engaging us this morning.
Lovely to have been here. Thank you very much for asking me.
Well, that was Professor Piet Krookamp. He is an election observer within the Southern African region, and he was talking to us about his observations of the elections that are taking place in Namibia. Of course, today is post-election day 2, but also voting day 2 right here in Namibia for the presidential and National Assembly elections. We will be right back.
Welcome back. You are still watching the special broadcast, Namibia Votes 2024. It is around about 8 o'clock right now, and polling stations are open for today, seeing that the voting day has been extended. That is now Epupa constituency, Opoa rural constituency, Sisfontein constituency, Okachale constituency, Ondangwa urban constituency, Oshakati East constituency, Oshakati region, as well as the Commerce region. Now, in the Commerce region, voting will be happening at the Trans-Namib Hall in the Windhoek West constituency.
Awesome. And hopefully people are going to turn up despite, what happened. But I understand that we'll be crossing over to Epako, to Leslie Shiweda. Epako, by the way, is Gobabe's Noshero.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You would know.
Now
How do you know?
You live, you learn.
Okay, you live, you learn. Now I know. Well, Leslie, a very good morning to you, and it's over to you.
Ndapewa, thank you so much for crossing over to us right here in Gobabes, and on this very Friday morning we have woken up a brand new day, but there's a sense of disappointment in the air for many of the Omaheke residents, and the extent to that is because there were some polling stations that did not or that also ran out of ballot papers, including in the Kalahari, in the Oshambinde constituency, in the Steenhausen constituency. And I think the question on many people's lips is that what criteria were used to be able to allow the 4 regions to be able to have polling stations open and people voting. I can tell you for a fact that some people will be driving from the Omaheke region to Windhoek to go and vote, where else it probably could have been done here. But then again, I'm also not alone. I'm joined here by the returning officer for the Gobabes constituency, Hedwig Wanidi. Good morning.
A very good morning to you,
Yes.
Leslie, and the entire Omaheke region.
Well, thank you so much. I know that yesterday was a very difficult day for you. The different polling stations in the Gobabes constituency eventually have pasted their results at their polling station. But how are things happening here with regard to the uploading of these results over to head office?
Leslie, we are still stuck. The system is not functioning at all. So we are still stuck with everything here. You can even see that we are here with all the ballot boxes and then all the sensitive materials is here. So we have not reached our things. I mean, our things have not reached to Windhoek yet. So we are still waiting for directives as to what can be done. And they said that they are busy rectifying the problem. So, yeah.
Is there any IT experts that is on the ground helping you guys to solve this problem that you're sitting with?
Yes, we have 2 ITs, one that came from Windhoek, from the head office, and we have a regional IT, and then we also have constituency ITs. And then I'm also sitting with a verifier and an auditor. So all this team is busy trying to do our best to get these results uploaded to CERC, and CERC to be given us their green light for us to paste the constituency's results.
Yeah. So, Ndapewa, I just wanted to quickly brief you that there's really more challenges in the Omaheke region. The polling stations have actually now eventually posted their results at the polling station. These are only the preliminary results. But the other challenges that are there is that the outcry of the people here saying that they did not get a chance to vote. I know, for example, there were some stations even in the Gobabes constituency where people came here last night and they were saying that they were turned away and they couldn't be able to vote. But why were those polling stations not reopened for them to be able to continue? I'm sure that these are challenges and questions that will be thrown at the Electoral Commission of Namibia that they have to be able to answer as to why or what were the criteria that they had to open some of the stations and not all of the stations. Now, Ms. Wanibi, as you were getting the results and tallying them and doing the auditing, were the numbers tallying up?
Yes, they were tallying up, yes. Yeah.
And the auditors or the auditing processes that takes place, is it personnel from the ECN or is it independent personnel that you've required assistance?
I think we are just a group of non-permanent employees of ECN. So some of these auditors are students that are studying at various universities, because I remember when we were trained in Windhoek, we were introduced to them as to that they were the people that were going to be working with us when we are going to upload and do the results tabulation and all that, yeah. So I don't think that they are from independent organizations and so on. It's young people that were temporarily employed by ECN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also part of the reason, because yesterday we do know that the elections are always a volatile process, and the reason why there's these question marks hanging over why hasn't the results come as far as the Kgobabe's constituency is concerned, because people have already voted the day before yesterday, and some of them yesterday, at least 24 hours ago. So those results are being expected to come. Otherwise, people will be expecting it to, or will start making those innuendos that maybe something is being cooked up and so on. When do you anticipate this problem to be solved?
Leslie, I'm also a voter. I have voted. I'm also eager to find out, to know the results. So I'm also part of the community that wants to know the results. But to me, it is not in my control, because it's the system that is now delaying everything. So if it was in my system, if it was in my power, I could have done this long time ago, pasted the results at the collation center at our constituency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens next once the verification process and the system have worked? Will the results also be pasted here at the collation center or not?
Yes, it should be pasted here at the collation center. The constituency results. So from all the polling stations within Kgobabe's constituency, they will put together and then they make one constituency result.
Who is responsible for that? Is that head office or the collation center here?
The collation center with CERC is responsible for that. So we send what polling stations have the results. We send the results of the polling stations to CERC, and CERC
those are the challenges that we have. I will be crossing over to Dishishi Hamfungu. He's in Katima Mulilo, so that he can give us what the thoughts are of there, and we'll see you then.
Welcome back. You're still watching this special broadcast focusing on elections that has been now prolonged as we know. 2 more days have been added, which is today and Saturday. From today, the polls have already opened. The polling stations have already opened from as of 7 o'clock and will run up until 9 p.m. as well as tomorrow, to allow those individuals who didn't have the opportunity to do so on Wednesday. And Tapeo, once again, just bring us up to speed about those polling stations in the various constituencies.
That's right. Now, in Epupa constituency, Epupa Falls will be one of the locations or one of the polling stations where one could go. There is Oruhona, Oshomurura Primary School, Ogengwa, Osia, Okakua, and Oshitanda Primary School. Now, that is in the Epupa constituency. Those are some of the polling stations. Now, for the polling stations in Opuwo Rural constituency, there is Okaoko Otavi School, Masaso Combined School, Odhohaviria Omuhiva Mobile School, and Onjete, Okavare, Otuvero, Omao, Okodongwehe, Oshiu East, and Aurora, Ongango, and Oruvanjei Kindergarten. Those are some of the polling stations you can find in the Opuwo Rural constituency. And in Sesfontein, that is Okochete and Okovasiona. Those are some of the polling stations. In Okachali constituency, there is Onekandu Combined School, Okashishete Combined School, Ashitenga Primary School, Okutunja Community Hall, Okahekeke Kindergarten, Nerola, and Nkavu. And please keep in mind that all polling stations have been open since 7 o'clock and will be closing at, that is 9 in the evening. And in Ondangwa, you can go, basically one of the polling stations is the Danger Ashipala soccer field. And in Oshakati East, one can basically go vote at Okanjengendi Community Hall, Onawa Kindergarten, Ehenye Public Place, and Evuloko Secondary School. In Oshikoto region, Ombuto constituency office, that is the only polling station in the Oshikoto region, and in the Commerce region at the Trans Namib Hall in the Windhoek West constituency.
Some tough names there, you know.
We learn as we go, Jonas. We learn as we go.
Yeah,
we do
absolutely.
apologize for the mispronunciation, perhaps, of some of the places.
Like I said, we live, we learn, and before we cross over to our colleagues in Katima Mulilo, we had an interesting discussion with Dr. Marius Kudumo, the public policy analyst, about you know, his impressions about how the process has been going so far. And one of the questions that I posed was, these 2 days have been given, for the individuals that haven't had the opportunity to go out there and register their vote. The question is now, will they go out there with the same enthusiasm after the experience that they've had? And he mentioned that, young people in particular turned out in numbers at the various polling stations that he went to. And before that, remember, we had a conversation around voter apathy, especially amongst young people. Oh, young people are not going to vote. Young people don't want to take. And then they went out just to be told, hey, guys, ballot papers are done. After waiting for up to 10, 12 hours, some of them went there as early as 6, as early as 5 o'clock. And it will be interesting to see. We currently don't have the numbers to show what the voter turnout was on Wednesday. But as soon as that is available, it will be good to compare what the voter out-in will be, going into this today and tomorrow as well. But I think that's an interesting observation. Will young people turn out with the same vigor, same enthusiasm, and say, like, look, I really want to be a part of this democratic process, and I want to see it out?
Yes, and I love how you spoke on voter turnout. But if I were in the shoes of perhaps a registered voter who perhaps did not actually go out there and cast their vote, I will be more, I'll be more, what do you call this, more encouraged to actually go out there and vote, perhaps because the lines would not be long.
Exactly.
So, it's an opportunity for me to actually go out there, and exercise my democratic right, because this basically comes off as a second chance.
Yeah.
You know, Jonas, today is a second chance, and then tomorrow is another third chance. So I feel like, you know, it's up to the youth to actually go out there for those who did not get the chance, the eligible ones who basically have voters' cards. If you did not get the chance to go out there and exercise your democratic right, well, take this opportunity, go out there, go vote. It is your voice, and your voice counts. And
there are people out there who still think today it's not a public holiday. Guys, go to work if you have to. You will get fired if you don't tell your employer where you are. It's not a public holiday. It's just a normal working day, but it's also a challenge. And we did discuss that as well earlier on about those who might have, you know, jobs that may not give them the chance to go out and vote, even if it's for an hour or two. And also depending on the turnout, of course, of the individuals that are also going out there who perhaps, you know, will think that, well, many people are going to be at work anyways, so I'm going to go out there and take advantage of the short queues. But once again, we'll see how that plays out. I also enjoyed the conversation with Elago and Professor Piet Krokamp from South Africa. He applauded the Namibian government. Namibia actually is a country, and the steps that were taken to ensure that Namibians who were left out of that process still are given an opportunity to exercise their fundamental human right. And he said that these things are, you know, in some instances, in some countries, are unheard of. There are countries where if this had happened, that's it. Sorry, you didn't make it. Well, I guess that's where the second chance comes from. And you know, Jonas, I mean, for those that actually have to work, I think, you know, it shows that provision has been made, you know, because not all of us work 8 to 5, but I think for those that do work 8 to 5, polling stations will be open until 9 o'clock. And for those that work Mondays to Fridays, then you have until tomorrow, Saturdays, polling stations will still be open from 7 until 9 o'clock. I think those are some of the provisions that have been made for those that actually, you know, work the 8 to 5 jobs. And Denver also had interaction with the spokesperson of the ECN, Devetse Luka, of course, and he asked some very interesting questions, saying, you know, what guarantee do we have? What measures have been put in place to ensure that we don't run out of ballots? That, you know, the machinery or electronics, obviously technology, as we've seen here over the days, is something that is sometimes, you know, outside of our control. We can't control when the machines go on and off. But there are, of course, you know, measures that can be taken to mitigate some of the challenges that were faced on Wednesday. Will they have enough batteries? Will they ensure that the generators that run on fuel, diesel or petrol, is there sufficient supply of that so we don't have people running around? Because one person mentioned and said, look, if in Windhoek now is the capital city. Now it sets the bar. Windhoek is the creme de la creme. Now if you run out of ballot papers in Windhoek, if you run out of batteries in Windhoek, how much more for somebody who's in Mashare or somebody deep in Kamchonga in Divundu area there? And how much more of a challenge will it be? Because everything is centralized in Windhoek. So that also needs to be taken into consideration, and hopefully the ECN will redeem itself in these 2 days in ensuring that, you know, they have enough stuff on the ground, that they have enough equipment that is needed at all these various places to ensure that we have a seamless process. That's right. Now the team in Katima Mulilo is on standby to bring us an update of what is happening in the northern part right there. Ndishishi, good morning, and it's over to you. I understand that there's still a bit of a technical issue there, but we will be informed as soon as we are ready to cross over. But yeah, so coming back to, you know, what we're saying in terms of, you know, the ECN redeeming itself. There are a lot of, you know, if you go on social media, a lot of people have been sharing their views. Some of them have been positive, some of them have been not so positive, stating that you knew the elections were coming. You knew that every 4 years, you know, we have elections. This is what you do. You know, and if there are any other challenges that, if there are any other challenges that we experienced in the previous elections, they could have been learned. We could have learned from that. And then there are those who are more forgiving, say, well, please do forgive them. They're a bit overwhelmed. But once again, the proof will be in the pudding from today and tomorrow. And wish them the best. And hopefully there will be a great turnout from those who didn't have the opportunity.
That's right. Now, we did see yesterday the preliminary results streaming in, trickling in. Now, for whoever missed those results, don't forget, you can always head over to our social media platforms. That is NBC Digital News, and keep yourself abreast as to what is happening. That is, of course, during these elections. We are at your service 24 hours. Dishishi is ready for us in Katima Mulilo. Good morning, and it's over to you.
Good morning, Jonas. Very good morning, Ndapewa, and of course all of our viewers, wherever you're finding yourself across the length and breadth of this beautiful nation we call Namibia. It's day 3 of this country's 8th presidential and National Assembly election. Of course, Jonas, Ndapewa hearing Ndapewa read out the list of extended polling stations. None of those form a part, or the Zambezi regions does not form part of those extended polls. None of its 8 constituencies form part of those extended polls, an indication that the process went fairly well in this part of the country. Where we are right now is the Zambezi Regional Council's Legislative Hall, where, of course, it serves as the collation center for the Katima Mulilo urban constituency. You would see that officials have been hard at work to, of course, bring those boxes from across the constituency. Some 23 polling stations set up here in the Katima Mulilo urban constituency, and they've been hard at work verifying those votes to ensure that everything is indeed in place and that everything should be as accurate as possible. Of course, there are 8 constituencies in total here in Katima Mulilo, and I'll just quickly run you through where the collation centers are for those particular constituencies. In Judea, Lea Boloma, you have the Sangwali Senior Secondary School Hall that serves as the collation center for that constituency. In Kave North, the Dr. Sam Nyoma CS serves as the collation center for that constituency. In Kave South, the Kave South Constituency Office serves as the collation center. In Katima Mulilo Rural, the Sanjo Senior Secondary School Hall serves as the collation center there. In Kongola, the Mayuni Senior Secondary School Hall serves as the collation center there. And in Linyati, you have the Linyati Constituency Office as the collation center there. And in Sivinda, we have the Sikosinyana Senior Secondary School serving as the collation center there. Now, this morning, we bring you conversations from very youthful perspectives, just to give us overviews of their experience of the election process so far. Of course, we'll be sitting down with Claudine Simaya as well as Kavende, and they will be here with more details and insights into the election process, but also some of the activities that they engage in and the prospects for youth here in the Zambezi region. But for now, we'll leave you with some beautiful sights and sounds of the Zambezi region. beautiful scenery there of the Zambezi region. We now kick off with our first interviewer this morning. Now, Mr. Kavende is, of course, a local entrepreneur here, a self-employed youth from Katima Mulilo, and he joins us this morning to share insights on the economic prospects as well as for local entrepreneurs and how they're navigating challenges within their communities and the line of operations. Kavende, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for being with us this morning again.
Thank you, and good morning to you too.
First and foremost, let's look at the election that is. Of course, it's day 3. Initially, it was just supposed to be day 1. What was your experience of the election process so far?
If I'm to compare the ongoing elections with the elections of 2009, when I was a first-time voter, it's quite a different experience. It was easy and straightforward. It was encouraging in 2009 when I was a first-time voter. And for this election, I feel it's so much discouraging, especially for the first-time voters, because we waited in queues in 2009, but not longer than 10 hours. We voted. Everybody was accommodated. Results came in as expected. But the inefficiencies of the Electoral Commission this time around leaves a lot to be desired. And I have mixed emotions with the extension of the polling
stations.
I feel there will be casualties from political parties with this exercise. We might experience some protest votes because surely with the announcement that polling has been extended for the next 2 days, it creates a room where voters might want to change their mind. With that announcement, surely people were supposed to go back to their constituencies and try to maybe campaign again, convince their prospects that please don't change your mind. This is a process. This is part of a democratic process, although it might not seem to be as such. So I believe political parties were not given that chance. The notice was too short, but it was needed.
But evidently, it was, of course, aimed at accommodating everybody, to ensure that everybody does have a chance to cast their votes due to what transpired on Wednesday. People unable to cast their votes due to a lack of ballot papers here.
Yes, I think that's where mixed emotions come in, because it's an exercise that is needed. Voting is a right. It's not a favor that's done by ECN. Exactly. So everybody that missed an opportunity because of inefficiencies or coming from the commission ought to be given that opportunity to cast their vote. But there's a ripple effect.
Possible ripple effect. Let's look at, the youth. I think, for the longest time, the youth was always sort of criticized for not participating actively and proactively so in this democratic exercise. And this time around, we saw, number one, the youth really coming out. When you look at the registration figures, of the 1.4 million registered voters, 900,000 of them are youth between 18 and 35 years of age. And really, that was visible on Wednesday as well. When you observe much of the queues, young people made up the majority of those queues, so to say. Do you feel like with this extension that young people may take up the opportunity that they may also be discouraged to go and vote in?
It's a catch-22 thing. Like I said, the confidence that the youth had on the 27th and the confidence that they have today, it has dwindled. We are witnessing on platforms where they are voicing out their dismay in this whole process. And like we said, students, some of them, the youth, are at work. They have exams. So it's a situation where they are caught between a rock and a hard place. They have to learn how to vote. They have to exercise their right for the first time. But the whole experience that they are getting now, I'm not confident I'm not confident it instills much confidence in them to exercise their right. I've participated this is my 4th time voting. I've used ballot papers before. I've used the electronic voting machines.
Yes.
And
how do you compare the two, by the way?
Comparing the two with the electronic voting machines, it made the whole process 2 or 3 times faster. The casting of a vote was at the press of a button. The counting of the votes was the press of a button. Although there were some
concerns around paper trail,
paper trail and stuff like that, I am of the belief that the ECN should have addressed that. They have had almost 10 years since that verdict was given, where to say, please include paper trails. There were many ways they could have tackled it. There's a manual process that they could have integrated to correlate with what is happening, but they decided let's discard and let's go to the. We took 4 or 5 steps back in a digital era, and this is evident now because the voters of today, that is the youth, they make up a big number of the registered voters. And this was going to be the good opportunity to capture them into the system of electronic voting. There were doubts then because the digital era of that time didn't believe much in technology. Technology has evolved. So I believe the ECN should actually relook at this so we don't have issues of running out of ballot papers, because there were no ballot papers. Just a machine with loaded candidates and political parties. You press, your vote is counted. So yeah, we wait and see. Results as well, at the current rate they are coming in, leaves a lot not to be desired.
I think, there's a bit of pride that should come from the Zambezi region. I think the manner in which, the Zambezi region responded to the shortages of ballot papers experienced also here, but also the speedily addressing of that. What do you make of the manner in which, your region handled the electoral process?
That boils down to our culture. We are a cultured region, so we do as we are told. That has helped us much into exercising what we needed to exercise. Because where I went to vote, I had faced some voters that were there 5 in the morning. That is only known to the elders. Some of the elders actually went and put placeholders to say, listen, ours here. So there's a stone here, there's a chair, there's a paper tied to something. This is my spot. So when we got there, there were more youthful people that turned up way too early. It's unfortunate that we still have the last minute people that wanted to vote the last minute, and that's where the disappointment came. The majority of the voters in Zambezi region have voted. That is not to say everybody else has voted, but statistically it gives. Because even if there were no such hiccups, not everyone is going to vote. Some people believe you just have to register, get a voter's card, and maybe it gives you an opportunity to be employed. They really never exercise that right, which is also a choice to make. So I don't know how it was arrived that certain regions could continue.
Do you think it should have been opened up?
I think it should have been opened up entirely, just so everybody else is given that opportunity. Because
rightfully said, there may be people, due to whatever reason, maybe the emergency may have arisen, people may have fallen sick, whatever the case may have been. Do you think it should have been opened up?
I think it should have been opened up across, so that everybody else is given an opportunity. I know of diehards that really want to exercise their rights. They are saying, I'm taking a bus. Next morning, I'm on a bus to Oshana, I'll vote, come back on Saturday. But it's a cost now. What about those without the means?
Yes. Those are votes that are being lost out on. Yes. Let's talk about the Zambezi region, Katima Mulilo, and of course, prospects for youth. You're an entrepreneur here. And just really, of course, this political exercise, this democratic exercise, pardon me, is of course also one that looks at addressing some of the youth issues across the country. What would you underscore as perhaps some of the biggest issues facing the youth here, and what would you like to see in addressing those issues here?
I always tell people they want to avoid politics, but politics is our life. Politics is what runs things around, from policies, from the laws and stuff like that. In the Zambezi region, there is some notable improvements from the education sector. We've got more than, I think, 5 institutions of higher learning, from medical schools, TVET, education. So we are fortunate that there's investment in that line. But then comes challenges as well. There is graduates that are offloaded from these institutions into the system that needs to unlock their potential. And for me, is to encourage entrepreneurial skills. It's a pity that not everyone will be absorbed into the employment market. So we need to have people that can create their own jobs and subsequently create jobs for the others. I'm one of those that have taken that step. I'm a software engineer by profession, so I still do consultants, although the market isn't really focused in Katima, Mlilo. I have clients outside Katima, but then when I'm in Katima, I do business that is business activities that are aligning to the economy of the region. Yeah. We are a border town that makes us a potential trading hub. Namibia borders is 4 countries here. Although we have 2 official borders, which is Zambia and Botswana, we still neighbor Zimbabwe, we still neighbor Angola. So the potential is there with targeted investment. We can unleash that potential.
Very much indeed.
Yes. For the youth, I think most of them they don't do the research that is really needed. I see more youth now getting interested in agribusiness, which is something that is viable in our region, but it has inconsistent market access. Yeah. So these are the policies that our leaders need to look at. Exactly. The next government should prioritize targeted policies for Zambia's region.
Very much indeed.
We have issues like we can't take this outside the region. We can't take this outside the region.
The decentralization of many of those services and opportunities here.
The decentralization of services.
We've done well, haven't
we? It's getting there. We see the giants in the communication and technology industries, yes, spreading their wings here, which is actually a hinge for economic development. But I'll still be emphatic on the policies that unlocks the potential of the region. Yeah. We feel, or the youth would feel, they are more restricted, so their participation becomes limited. I can't produce this because I can't send it to markets outside the region. Yes. We have issues where certain things are confiscated at Kongola checkpoint, at Divundu, at Mororani, yeah, stuff like that. So if leaders can work around and see how they work around to unlock the market access for the youth here. Yeah. Tourism, we are the access to Chove National Park, yes, Victoria Falls, together with our own parks around here and wildlife. So the opportunity in that industry is very vast.
Very much indeed.
It's untapped, and mostly it's left to the foreigners. Yeah. It's an untapped industry that we, the youth, can grasp and take hold of.
Absolutely. Yes, Sakavende, as we conclude, just your message as far as day 3 and tomorrow day 4 of election day also continues. just your message of encouragement to the youth to go out there and cast their votes, given the opportunity in those particular constituencies here.
Despite the challenges that we have faced in our voting processes, I still feel the youth shouldn't give up. Their vote is their voice. So their cries, they are answered through the ballot. So please go out there and vote for the candidate that you believe, or for the party that you believe is going to champion for your needs and etc. So please don't be discouraged. Be there on time. Exercise your right, so that the next time me and you engage, we are talking under our vote. So don't complain under someone's vote.
Someone else's vote. Thank you so much for being with us. All the best to you, Ian.
Thank you, thank you.
There you have it, Kavende. He is, of course, a youth hailing here from the Zambezi region, entrepreneur as well, just giving us his 2 cents on his experience of the election process, as well as the extension of the election, the voting process, pardon me. Of course, we saw that announcement yesterday from the ECN, saying that things went fairly well here in the Zambezi region, but is also hopeful for a number of opportunities for youth here in the Zambezi region. We'll sit down with Claudine Simaya in a bit. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Claudine Siyama is a graduate in lifelong and community development with a remarkable track record in youth empowerment. As a practitioner in gender-based violence prevention, sexual and reproductive health and rights, HIV/AIDS advocacy, and mental health awareness, she dedicates her efforts to tackling some of the most pressing issues or challenges faced by our young people, especially here in the Zambezi region. Claudine is the co-founder of Building Every Opportunity for Change, or BEOC, a dynamic youth-led organization based here in the Zambezi region. And recently, she was also elected as the chairperson of the Katima Urban National Youth Council Forum. She now joins us, of course, to give us some insights into some of these projects and her work here. Claudine, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Firstly, let's talk about what inspired you to, of course, go down this path, and talk to us about the BEOC.
Okay. So basically what inspired me is back in school we would always have organizations like Childline Lifeline or OYO who would always engage us in this conversation and empower us on gender-based violence, sexual and reproductive health rights, mental health. And so one thing that stood out for me in that is that Zambezi region always stood out as one to rate the highest in teenage pregnancies and also HIV and AIDS. So that drove my desire to want to do something about it. So with the support of my mentor, Mr. Rian Siyama, I embarked in lifelong learning and community development. Yes, so in the process of me being at university, I met like-minded people, and in 2018 we established or co-founded the organization Building Every Opportunity for Change. Now we were still young and inexperienced, and so yes, so, through the platform I went further to seek mentorship with Mr. Charles Makumba, who is the director of White Ribbon Campaign Namibia. And so through that, I gained skills and exposure. I even managed to be the youngest trainer of the Isira School of Caretakers, where we also help them or gain understanding as to how they could address issues around gender-based violence, being caretakers in communities. After that, this deepened my passion. I wanted to understand more, and in my final year, I took up to understand COVID and how it exacerbated issues of gender-based violence for definitely for young people and girls in the Kongola constituency, because that's basically where I come from. So I went there and conducted my research, and the issues of the lockdown, the exacerbated situations of gender-based violence in homes, and a lot of people lost their livelihoods. So that also influenced issues of gender-based violence. But then come post-COVID, people are still experiencing the same issues. Many young people are unemployed. We have been seeing issues of GBV on the rise. So basically now I'm here in the Zambezi region with building every opportunity for change, and we are continuing to thrive and initiate activities, collaborate with fellow organizations to implement strategies around how we can address issues around gender-based violence, HIV and AIDS, SRHR.
And what major inroads have you made in addressing these issues? What major inroads have you made in addressing these issues here?
Okay, so with building every opportunity, we are affiliated with the Ministry of Sports, Youth and National Services, and also the National Youth Council. So through this platform, we're able to engage church leaders on the discussion around gender-based violence, and also how they can bring the discussion in the churches and how to support probably victims or even perpetrators that are struggling. And also we involve traditional leaders through engagements as well, how to bring back the discussion back into their respective communities. And also we've embarked on campaigns to around demonstrations to prevent gender-based violence, like the situation of the young woman who lost her child due to paternity issues. We partook in demonstrating to prevent gender-based violence in that regard, yes.
Now, you also serve as the chairperson of the Katima Urban National Youth Council Forum.
Yes.
Talk to us about this platform and you know, what impetus it adds to what you're already doing here.
Okay, so with my role as newly elected chairperson, yes, we are now standing, or I am now standing at a position of influence. I'm now able to mobilize fellow young people to engage in the discussion. Young people should engage themselves or affiliate themselves with the Ministry of Youth, National Youth Council, or even other youth-led organizations to really take part in addressing in these social issues. It may not be gender-based violence, but there's climate change, which is equally a pressing issue, especially in the Zambezi region. Yes, unemployment, there's so much, so many issues that we could take part in. So it just, it should come from your passion. What do you want to do? So this platform basically will broaden up that discussion to see where young people can take into bridging those social gaps. Yes.
Are young people responding? Are they heeding to this call?
Yes, definitely they are. We have seen it through the elections, of course, that many young people were actually wanting to participate. So this is also the case in social situations. Yes.
I just wanted to gauge you as well on the current election and what you make of some of the events that have unfolded over the past few days. We know that, of course, there were major ballot shortages experienced across the country. The situation was fairly well here in the Zambezi region. What was your experience of the election process here?
For me, it went well. I anticipated all these situations, so I woke up early. I woke up early. By 8, I was done voting. So, yeah, it went well for me, to be honest. I didn't experience any commotion or situations.
Evidently, the ECN has extended the polling days to, of course, accommodate those who couldn't be accommodated on the 27th. I just asked Kabende, my previous guest, you know, how this might sort of discourage, especially youth who were really interested, you know, in participating and voicing themselves through the ballot. What do you make of that? And do you think it could perhaps, you know, sway either way?
I think it just comes to the way you think about it. I feel like the youth shouldn't approach it as a sort of discouragement, but the opportunity has been given to us, so why not use it? Yes. Use it to make your voices heard. Yes.
Just as we conclude our discussion, of course, we know that the festive season is upon us. Many people will be going on to holiday, but of course, in a month's time, we'll be back in a new year, picking up where we left from left. Sorry. What do you have on your agenda for next year through the BEOC and, of course, through the platform as chairperson of the Katima Urban National Youth Council Forum?
Okay, so in this regard, my main focus is on the well-being of young people. And through social empowerment, we want to now collaborate and also leverage into areas of economic empowerment. And also this will enable us to build the self-reliance and the resilience that we need for the future. Yes.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And all the best to you, Liam.
Thank you.
There you have it, Claudine Siyama talking to us here from Katima Mulilo. She's the chairperson of the Katima Urban National Youth Council Forum. Of course, just giving us an overview of the work that she does here through, that is the BEOC as well, building every opportunity for change, focused on youth matters, issues facing youth in the Zambezi region. Of course, from sexual and reproductive health, gender-based violence prevention, HIV/AIDS advocacy, and mental health awareness. These are some of the issues at the very top of her agenda, saying that they indeed look to address these matters and ensure that youth do live a fruitful life. Of course, this concludes our segment here as we come to you from the Zambezi Regional Council's Legislative Hall, the Collation Center for the Katima Mulilo Urban Constituency. We apologize for the noise there, but as you, of course, could make out that the ballot boxes continue to trickle in here from the 23 polling stations in this constituency, 221 across the entire Zambezi region. The process went fairly well as no extension has been applied here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, a very good morning to you, Ndishishi, and the entire team in Katima Mulilo. Also, greetings to the entire team that is also at the Capital Studio in Windhoek. We are coming to you live from the Oshakati East constituency, where you can see easily in my background that voting, of course, is continuing. We have been, of course, observing some of the polling stations in the area just to familiarize ourselves with what is actually happening in terms of the voter turnout. And what we have picked up so far is that there are still a few numbers of people that have not gotten a chance to vote on the 27th of November. And now with what the ECN has done, of course, making it now possible for more people to come and get a chance to vote. We are seeing a couple of numbers that are showing up. But at this very polling station that we are finding ourselves at, Okanjegedi, they are having a slight issue with some delays of election material that have not been delivered yet. We have come here as early as about 7 o'clock, and polling station has been opened, but no election activity has been able to take place because they have not received any material. But we're going to be getting a rather highlight of what has happened from the 27th at this very polling station, and now just in comparison with what is happening now. To tell us about that, I am joined by the presiding officer of the Okanjegedi polling station here in Oshakati East. Thank you so much, Loide, for joining us. How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Talk to us about what actually, with the turnout on the 27th of November. How was the turnout like here at this very polling station compared to today?
On the 27th, people were a lot. They came. And compared for today, and we really appreciate their presence here, and we managed to finish everyone who was here. Yeah.
What was the time that you closed the polling station on the 27th of November?
We closed at 4 a.m. on the 28th of November.
Right.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the turnout now today. Of course, we had a lot of people on the 27th of November until the 28th, like you mentioned, early mornings. Looking at the second chance now, of the second time that the election is going on, how would you compare, or rather just talk to us about the challenge of the ballot papers that have not been, arrived at this area yet?
Since we did not get any materials yet, we are just waiting for the news to come so that we go collect the materials. So we start, but we are fully ready to assist everyone who's here today.
What is your seniors saying on this, especially regarding the materials not having arrived on time yet?
No, so far they are not saying anything. They are just telling us to wait for the news to come, then go collect the materials. So we start.
How does this, play with the patience of the people? If the people actually expressed anything about, asked the ECN if they are ready or how long it's going to take? Because I'm sure it's still, people are still worried if they can still wait longer and how long they have to wait.
Yes, they came through asking what time they will start, since they came here before 7. But then we told them to wait, to be patient, because we are also patiently waiting for the materials to arrive. But as soon as the material arrive, then we'll just start with the process.
Yeah. In terms of the people that you're looking at, are you saying? Can you clearly say that these are people who were sent back or did not get the chance to vote, or the ones that actually, decided no, they're not going to stand in the queues for too long, they're going and then they're going to give up on voting?
What? I did not get
do you think the people that are here are actually people who left the queues on the 27th of November, or are the ones that didn't get the chance to vote on the 27th of November?
Oh, that one I cannot really say that they were here and then they left. But then if they came, obviously they knew that we did not vote, so they came to cast their vote today. Yes.
Looking forward for the rest of the day, what are some of the activities that you're going to make sure that everyone that's here get a chance to vote?
Actually, we are just waiting for our returning officers. If anything comes up, then they will contact us and then we'll just adhere to their, yes.
Yeah. In terms of time, what time can you perhaps say the election material will be here at the Oshakati polling station?
That one I cannot really say that. Yes.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, and I wish you all the best for the day.
Thank you, sir.
Loide Elu is the presiding officer at the Oshakati polling station, and she was just telling us about the challenges the station here is facing. It's been a couple of hours now, and it's close to 9 o'clock, or rather perhaps past if I speak under correction, and we are just a little bit behind with the polling or the election materials that we are of course still anticipating. Loide clearly said that the returning officer is yet to communicate to her as to how far those election materials are, and also waiting to hear, of course, what will be the next step instead, because we had people that have come here as early as 6 o'clock to make sure that they are front of the line, and also hoping that they can get a chance to vote earlier. There are still a couple of people arriving at this polling station, and who of course are still looking at other polling stations that are open, knowing very well that not all polling stations have been opened for other people who have not gotten a chance to vote to now go back to the polling stations and vote again. We are going to be moving around the area in the Oshakati East constituency just to bring you more updates on what's happening at those polling stations as that day progresses. But for now, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you so much, John. Johnny Konja there, finding himself in that is Oshakati, bringing us an update there. So we see that today, the 29th of November, elections continue. Voting basically continues. Now we head over to our reporter, NH, who's finding himself at the Namib Hall to bring us an update as to how the situation is there. NH, good morning, and it's over to you.
Good morning. We are here at the Namib polling station. People had gathered around in numbers since they have been given another opportunity to vote. The voting is going to take place again till tomorrow. So I'm joined here by Paul Kamati, the presiding officer at the Namib polling station. Mr. Kamati, what instructions have you gotten from the ECN in terms of how the process is going to go and how long you guys are going to be allowing people to still cast their votes?
We're going to be allowing people to cast their votes till tomorrow. So actually, depending on the amount of people that come here or the outcome, would actually be going into the next day. So whoever is found at the venue will actually be giving everyone a chance to vote. And then I believe that also most of the Namibians were actually upset because they were not given the opportunity to vote on the 27th of November. So that is why they did the extension, so that everyone can actually have a free and fair vote, because people were actually not happy about it. But as I can see, people are actually turning out in numbers, and everyone that is leaving the venue is actually happy. They're also saying that, as you can see, the process is actually faster because people are also not staying in long. So it's actually quite good because everyone's happy.
In terms of, like, you know, previously what happened, like, you know, the balloting papers were not enough. Do you think, like, ECN provided enough balloting papers now for everybody to cast their vote?
No comment.
No comment on that. So, like, what is the process going to be after you are done with everybody casting their votes?
After the process, we are actually going to now do the whole procedure of the counting once everyone is actually casted their vote.
Anything more you can tell me in terms of, like, is it the same excitement, the same energy that they had on the 27th when the people are coming in? Do you think there are still more people going to come in and come and cast their votes? And why is there only one polling station?
I believe that the excitement is actually way better compared to the last one, because people were actually angry, but then I can see that majority of the people that are coming in are actually happy, and they are leaving happy because they are given the right to actually vote. And then that was the question again.
Yes, I was asking, like, do you think why do we only have one polling station for the whole Commerce region?
Oh no, the only reason why we have this specific venue is because this venue was actually a mobile team, and we came to this venue late. So now everyone that was here before we got here is actually allowed to come vote here now. And it's actually not only going to be one venue, because we have another team that is going to be coming here to assist us.
So you are going to be having additional venues throughout the city. Like, is it going to be happen today, or is it going to happen tomorrow? Because the votes are going to be cast until tomorrow evening at 9 o'clock.
The team is actually on the way as we are speaking. So it will be one venue, but it just won't be one team that is actually assisting the voters.
Okay, thank you so much. And as you heard there's going to be the polling station is going to take here. They're going to bring more teams. Hopefully the booth will be more, and the process is going smooth. So far it's looking good. The people have come up in numbers. And that is it from me, NH Nwabev, NBC News. Back to the studio.
Saying that the ballot papers will be marked with pencils, some members are actually worried about these procedures. Now here with me, I'm standing with one of the citizens who actually casted their vote, but are actually worried about these procedures of ballot papers being marked with pencil. But although we've heard that there will be strict measures actually, which will be applied when these ballot papers will be counted. So, sir, would you please tell us what is actually worrying you that these ballot papers are being marked with pencils?
Because I asked them, can I not mark it with my 2 pens, because I was having pens, and they just told me that no, just only with the pen, with a pencil. And I asked them, why is it only with the pen? I don't understand it, because corruption is always everywhere, because I know it about it. They can go and erase it, or I don't know what will happen next from there. But really, I'm not sure about it. But the only complaint that I have, how can they mark with a pencil, is my complaint that I have. Because today in the morning I go and vote, and I voted, but we'll see which party will win. But the complaint that I have is just because how can I mark with a pencil while I have my own 2 pens? I even asked them, they are telling me that only with the pencil, then my things will be counted. So I'm just scared of that. Then from there, I just think that maybe corruption is beginning from there, or I don't know.
Also, you think that it will be erased when you mark with a pencil?
It's what I think. It's what I'm thinking. So I don't know from there, but with a pencil, I cannot understand it. We'll see about what will happen the next.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so
Only
much.
the complaint that I was having with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm Mr. Daku. I'm the presiding officer for Sona Village Polling Station number C, the Eagle Academy School. The reason why we use pencils instead of pens is because pens tend to smudge. Sometimes the ink of the ball runs out, and it can also run over the line, which can easily spoil the ballot. And some people say no, but pencils are not good because people can erase pencils. But I say no, there's no way that you can erase pencil marks because they are political party agents from different political parties. Us polling officials are there, there are observers watching, so nobody can open a sealed ballot box without somebody seeing him. Breaking seals, breaking 3-4 different seals, just to get to that paper to erase a pencil mark into to change that vote. So that's why I think they decided or they started using pencils instead of pens.
Yes, welcome back. You're still watching the special broadcast of focusing on the second day of elections. Earlier on, we had NH Web, who is currently in the capital at one of the polling stations at Trans Namib, just to gauge the atmosphere, speaking to the presiding officer, and just trying to give us the information as to what's going on there. We'll also be crossing over to Keetmanshoop now with Jimmy Natangwe to bring us up to speed as to how the situation is developing over there.
Well, thank you so much, Jonas. As you rightfully said, of course, we are broadcasting live from ECN's Collation Center here in Keetmanshoop, where the verifications and obviously the results of the Keetmanshoop urban constituency, results of the presidential and national assembly elections, we are still eagerly waiting for those to come in and various results, especially within the Karas region. While earlier this night, I had the opportunity to speak to Yea Muya. She's the regional electoral officer here of the ECN in the Karas region, just speaking to us about some of the activities that happened during the of voting. So let's take a look at that insert and see that discussion that I had with her last night. Thank you so much for joining me, Natangwe Jimmy. I'm of course bringing you this special broadcast and interaction from the Keetmanshoop ECN's Collation Center, where you can see behind me a number of ECN officials are currently trying to verify the election results of the Keetmanshoop urban constituency that was just concluded yesterday on the 27th of November, where the presidential and national assembly elections took place. While just joining me to discuss some of the happenings of the few days, I'm joined by Hea Muyoro, who is the ECN's electoral officer here in the Karas region. Thank you so much, Ms. Muyoro, for joining us on NBC TV.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and good evening to the viewers as well.
Great. Of course, after a successful training of ECN officials, sensitive and sensitive material were dispersed to the various constituencies here in the Karas region. Just share with us first, in terms of the training that took place, was it a successful training, and then what were some of your sentiments in terms of what some of these election officials took to their various constituencies in terms of conducting these elections?
Okay, I thank you very much for the question. We started with the trainings of the returning officers as the gazetted officials to preside over the elections at the constituency levels, and that was followed by the polling officials that serve in different categories of both presiding and polling officials. Let me also add that we also recruited a number of other important officials, the logistics officers. As you could see, they were running up and down
to make sure that materials are dispatched and allocated per polling points. We also have a huge group of IT officials. These are young people who have studied computer studies. We also have an element of verifiers and auditors. So we have a good number of people recruited to all the sections of the election process. We let me also mention that apart from the temporary staff, we have permanent voters education officers that were joined by youth ambassadors. The youth ambassadors came on board on a temporary basis just to bring that youthful energy to encourage young people to participate so that they could respond. So from there, with the trainings of all these different groups, and to be specific, between the 24th and 25th of November, is started dispatching the sensitive materials. Due to the vastness of the region, we had to start with the constituencies of Namibian and Oranje as the furthest, and we then Karasberg East and West between 24 and 25, so that on the 26th we could then focus on constituencies that are closer. That will be the Beersheba, Keetmanshoop Rural, and Keetmanshoop Urban. So on the 26th, the morning is when we dispatched the Keetmanshoop Rural and Beersheba constituency and Keetmanshoop Urban, since they are the hosts, dispatched the sensitive materials the same day with the non-sensitive. That was now the 26th. What else to mention? Maybe I can also add the element that the training of the polling officials was over a stretch of. It was a very intensive training to make sure that they internalize the concepts as they are going to be conducting or coordinating the electoral processes at the polling stations. And overall, I'm satisfied with the performance. We did have a few elements that was frustrating to note that there will be one or two that will forget some steps, but that is part of the processes and challenges that comes with any project where you have human beings. You will have elements where they will forget or even panic. You know, these are young people that. So for most of them working for the first time, so and you should understand that the election is one of those activities that comes with a lot of energy and pressure. So for young people who have never worked before and are seeing all this tension from political parties, political agents, you know, they could also panic a bit. But overall, I am very satisfied with the performance in the region. So we started off on time with more than 90% of the polling points. The challenges were, especially day one on the 27th, were the fact that we could not reach some of the teams because of network. So we trust the recordings, the correct ones, and there were teams that had to start a bit later after 7 because we had some challenges with the vehicles. We had government vehicles and also a mix of private vehicles, as you might have observed. That there were some adverts and members of the public were called to bring their vehicles. So we had a slight challenge, especially in the Karasberg East constituency, where members of the public will complain about the distance. You know, each region in Namibia has their own unique elements of challenges, and for the Klaras region, the distances is a big problem. So we just had those slight ones, but they were manageable, and we managed to deliver. We experienced like I highlighted, the normal challenges that comes with the electoral processes and the nature of elections, where, for instance, you would have tension from election agents at some of the polling points in the Karasburg West, where, for instance, you had to explain the concepts of the difference between election agent, counting agent. They did undergo training, but as human beings, at times they were mixing the concepts in understanding, so they would present themselves with a counting form while they're supposed to be election agents. So some of those, will delay the process just to explain a bit, to say no, the counting agent would come after 21 hours at the
But overall,
counting.
you say that on election day, all polling stations, you said about 90% of polling
More
stations,
than 90%, yeah.
more than 90% of polling stations opened on time.
Yeah.
We have seen, of course, just on election day, throughout the country, there was numerous challenges with some polling stations not opening on time. So you would safely say that, in the Karas region in particular, you haven't had those much of hiccups. You would also attribute these successes with the amount of training that was conducted over the past few days, and also with the other training that was also done, extensive training for the past 9 days. If you look at just apart from the distances, there is a challenge here in the Karas region. What are some of the other challenges maybe that the ECN sees and anticipated, and how important was it for you, your team and your leadership to find ways, to find solutions to face these challenges and make sure that at the end of the day they are addressed there and there?
Okay, maybe I would refer to the challenge that was experienced countrywide, and that was the issue of transferring ballot books from a polling point to another. It is allowed legally that a polling point can transfer ballot books, and for this election in particular, Namibia became one constituency, and therefore it is one of the easy elements to transfer. We didn't have huge challenges. We did have constituency within constituencies transferring books, but we didn't have issues where we had to stop a polling point for more than an hour, 2 hours, because there were no books. We did not have that in the Karas region, and it is more because of communicating. We had constant communication with the returning officers amongst themselves, and from my part as well, in checking all the time to see the availability of whatever we need to use, and especially the ballot books, because it comes as automatic that there are certain things that you need to keep checking with the election process, and ballot books are one of those. Maybe the other element was just the issue of the UV lights. The batteries were running out faster than we could assess prior to the election, so we had minor hiccups with the batteries running out. I should really applaud head office that we tried, and even with the distances, we tried to really manage to run. We were on our feet the whole day. We were awake for any challenges. I should say I'm very satisfied with how we fared as a region, and how as a team we managed all aspects. And I would sin if I would not thank my team at the office, the voters education team, the whole admin team, logistics, the way we really formed a puzzle, and we were all looking after each other's backs to say, do you need help? I would say we really have a good team. We have a very good team.
Let's look at election day, the 27th. You say all polling stations started on time, opened on time. In terms of the process, because the fear that most voters had was that the process in itself, just within the polling station, is long. But then some of us that have gone there, I've also had the opportunity to speak to a number of role players within the communities, whether it was the elder, whether it was church leadership, whether it was politicians, whether it was journalists and reporters. And most of them shared the same sentiments, that the process itself within the polling station is quite fast. The only issue was the lining the lining up of queues. Maybe just explain to us, because we know that over the years the process within the polling station was a bit cumbersome, but now we see it's much faster. What are some of the changes that the ECN had done over the years to improve on that?
Okay. I haven't been with the ECN for too long to refer to many years.
Times,
but one of the elements that I have observed is the introduction of the electronic voter verification devices. That has made the whole process very fast and easy to manage. And you should know Namibia is a very young country. So these young people are well conversant with these electronic devices. So it makes it very easy. So maybe the advantage of having a very young nation and introducing the system that works for the users, because they were the ones operating, works. I feel it is something that ECN should feel proud of. We in terms of the queues being long, for instance, let me give an example. We looked at some settings like a hospital, and you would only want the inpatients and institutional workers.
Yes.
That will be the assessment. And like in Keetmans, we experienced that the general public went to queue up, So that created a just whole different scenario. So, I mean, it almost got out of hand because it was a mobile team that was assigned to be at the hospital, and now you have 300 people queuing up there. So, but we had to think outside the box and look within the premise of what we could, how to manage it. And I would thank the police team, Nampol, really, for instance, with that one in particular. We called them to say we need help in rearranging the queues, and they joined in and forced the security, and it worked.
We've also seen, Madam Muyolo, that what I've noticed and what some of the reporters and some of the community members that I've spoken to have seen is that they've really commended this time around the ECN and also in general the Namibian public themselves for allowing the elderly to come to go first. I think that showed really who we are as Namibians, and our spirit of assisting those ones that might be more vulnerable than the rest of us. Maybe what's your comment, and what would you want to say to the Namibian people with regard to allowing, especially the elderly, those ones that are differently able, to get the first chance for them to go and vote?
Okay, we were brought up to respect the elders, and one of the elements that we use is to give the chair to the elder. So if you are the first and you have elderly, because your legs can allow for you to stand longer hours or for a long period, it is just the right thing to do. So we should continue as a nation to instill this cultural ethos or values in our young people so that they understand, because at times they don't want to understand that we should allow the elderly, the expectant mothers. So I feel it is more like the element or the word in English where they say charity begins at home. Yes. So we need to train our kids at home to understand that it is just the right thing to do. Let me allow an elderly who might not have the strength in their legs and back to stand longer than I could.
Yes. And with regard to this, and with regard to the long queues also, and we've seen that some of the polling stations had to stay a little bit longer than the normal prescribed time of 9 o'clock. Maybe just share with us challenges with regard to that within the Karas region, whether the other polling stations had to stay more than the hour of 9 o'clock, and your observation of what the public felt for that extension. What were the satisfying words that they would share, or sentiments that they would share, to at least have that chance for them to exercise their democratic right?
Okay, in general, it is allowed, or there is a principle from ECN that whoever is found within that polling point by 9 o'clock should be allowed to vote. So we wanted everybody to vote. So from the ECN perspective, we felt it was an advantage to have long queues. So that meant that a lot of people accessed the services. So I didn't see it as an element of negativity. I felt we maybe might have anticipated that people would have been cleared by 9, but having long queues, to me, I felt, okay, I guess there is some maturity and shift in the energy of especially young people wanting to vote, and it was really a good thing for the extension. Right. I felt it was something
Namibians have made their marks from all the four corners of our beautiful Namibia. Where are we now currently, especially in the Karas region? At what phase of the election process are we currently on as we speak?
Okay, the last teams to get to the polling stations arrived around between 12 and 2. Between 12 and 2, and we started adding up the votes in what we call the counting process. The counting process started from midnight, depending on how the polling point closed. So it's not the same for all the constituencies. Like Beersheba is a very remote, network is a challenge. So we are still, we are done with the counting in the whole region, but we are now in the process of verifying.
Great, well, thank you so much. I can always only say best of luck to your team. And we thank you obviously for the good work that you do. We know that sometimes for us that are here, we do not understand what is happening at the background, and it's also always easy for us to criticize without understanding. But thank you so much for the good work that you do, your team has done, especially in the Karas region.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that was our ECN officials speaking to us about some of the activities that are happening currently here in the Karas region, as we expect results to come in and some of the collation stations here in the Karas region to start announcing those results. It's back to you.
Thank you so much, Natangwe Jimmy. That was a report, of course. Natangwe Jimmy, as he always says his name when he ends his stories. Just having a sit down with one of the ECN officials about the work that goes into organizing an election and, of course, also behind the scenes experience as well. We'll now cross over to Swakopmund, where Nina Katangana is on standby.
Good morning and welcome to our live coverage from the beautiful Erongo region. I'm Nina Katangana and we're coming to you from the Coalition Center here in Mondesa, Swakopmund. Now, breaking news last night, as we all know by now, was that voting has been extended. The extension of voting in Namibia until November 30th was primarily necessitated by significant logistical challenges during the election process. Many voters face long queues, with some waiting up to 12 hours due to technical issues with voter identification tablets and shortage of ballot papers at polling stations. In response to these difficulties and criticism from various political parties and electorate alike, the Electoral Commission of Namibia decided to allow voters to cast their ballots today, Friday 29th, and tomorrow, November 30th. Now, this will not be taking place across the entire country, only in selected areas and selected polling stations. You've probably seen some of this information already, but let's have another look.